From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. A man in Raybun County, Georgia, says that he spotted a Bigfoot. The man, whose name wasn't provided, told Expedition Bigfoot that he was driving to work when he noticed the unusual creature on a field near Clayton. He's quoted as saying, "It was early in the morning. It was walking through a field and knelt down at a branch where there are trout present." I'm not sure how trout appear in a field, but this is according to what he said. He reportedly told the Facebook group this over the phone. The man described the animal as being black and gray, according to the post published back on May 27th. He said it was a Bigfoot. The post didn't specify further physical details of the alleged creature, but he added that the eyewitness really wasn't a believer. And out of Lufkin, Texas, a man claims he saw a Bigfoot walking on his eastern Texas property in Angelina County. The unnamed witness had reportedly been hearing strange noises and spotting a shadowy figure several times over the course of the past few weeks. Today, one of my neighbors complained about their dogs being attacked, so I started looking more carefully, he said. Sunday night, on a foggy YouTube video, no one is going to believe me. I came out here earlier with my dog, and there was a hairy creature on the edge of my property, right along the brush line. The man states that he was able to look at it for a few minutes while his dog ran after it before disappearing into the woods. He's also quoted as saying, "I have no idea what it was. It clearly did not look human." Earlier that day, the man says he went back to where the alleged Bigfoot sighting took place, and he photographed an unidentified footprint with what appears to have 5 toes. Quote, "This is proof of Bigfoot in East Texas," he said. The city of Lufkin, named after a cotton merchant, has a population of 35,000 and is situated at the intersections of US 59, currently under construction, and Interstate 69. And a massive bird sighting in California sent in by Stuart Johnson to Phantoms and Monsters. The story is as follows. I saw a bird in California on the western slope of the southern Sierra foothills that was so huge, my brain could not even register what I was looking at. The first few moments that I looked at it, my brain was trying to register it as a guy in a condor suit or some kind of man-made device that looked like a giant condor. But it wouldn't hold in my mind because it was up in the air hovering in place in the wind while batting its massive wings. So its body was a little bigger than an average-sized man. I ended up thinking of it as a condor and just thought maybe they're bigger than I thought. The bird was huge enough that it could probably fly way up in the air and glide from the mountains where it went straight over to the Pacific coast and Channel Islands in no time. And I think that's probably what it did, because I don't know what else it could possibly eat except for dead whales, sharks, dolphins, and sea lions, etc. But the area I saw it in was full of open-range cattle, which die on the range all the time, and it was in a place that blew 40-mile-an-hour winds every day. That's what the bird would ride on. And here's an interesting animal fun fact. The leg bones of a bat and hummingbird are so thin that they cannot walk. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-drift.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Well, good evening and welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're live on the Fringe FM. It is Wednesday night, June the 12th on into the 13th. And thank you so much for joining us wherever you're listening from, be it the Fringe FM app or the website or the pop-out players or TuneIn or iTunes or TalkStream Live or the Paranormal Radio app or Alexa or even some of those good old other players that I've seen you guys listening on like Winamp, whatever. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight we're going to be speaking with Robert Bonomo again. It's been, I believe, 10 months or so since he's been on the program, and we're going to talk about mind, magic, symbolism, the occult, media, the tarot, all of that good stuff. And it's really about, you know, I believe that a spirit, whatever you want to call that, the other spirit, doesn't really have to have a name, does it? Is always trying to communicate with us, or at least I'd like to believe that. And there's so many things that validate it. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight, and maybe about how we can learn how to communicate back with it. And these kinds of topics we talk frequently about the show. I mean, just last night we were talking about with Dr. Hugh Ross, it was a biblical discussion. And, you know, he kind of took the viewpoint about how some of this stuff is a bit dangerous. And so I think you should know by now that we're willing to go in any direction and talk about anything to get down to it here. And I don't know. I'm at a loss with some of this stuff, just to be honest with you, because again, there's a part of me that is I want to touch things, I want to look at it, I want to feel it, just to know that it's real. But then again, I have experiences that I can't prove and explain, and that's the fun part of it. And two, I want to mention as well, coming up June the 17th, Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, is the Get the Tea webinar with Ronnie McMullen. And you guys really are missing out if you don't come to that webinar. All you got to do is go sign up. It's free. And the cool thing about it is last week he gave away a big bottle of bee pollen to someone, and he gives out exclusive coupons. But, you know, I know that you hear the commercials a lot on the broadcast, and also you hear them on the network. And there's a lot of people out there trying to sell you supplements and stuff. So let me just tell you real quick. Let me get this out there. Why we're using Get the Tea and why that is on the Fringe FM. It's simply because I believe in what they're doing. I know Ronnie. I've spoke with him. He's a friend of mine. He's in the know. He keeps up with research. He makes sure that he puts the best stuff in his products, and he genuinely cares about his customers. And believe it or not, in this kind of industry, when people are just trying to sell you bottles of stuff and they don't really care what's in it, that is a hard thing to find. It's a rare thing to find. And so this is kind of like the Ferrari of supplements and cleansing, and it's really helped me. So go over there at getthetea.com, tell them we said hey, and come hang out with us on the webinars Monday night. Our website is, if you're listening for the first time, lightingthevoid.com. We're live on the Fringe FM Monday through Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight. And we talk about everything on this show. The weird, the strange, the normal. Hell, we even talk about pop culture, true crime, you name it. If it's mysterious and we can't find an answer for it, we like to talk about it. I do tend to go towards the paranormal a little bit and towards the mystic and magical side of things quite a bit on this broadcast, though, because I'm personally interested in that. But I had a listener mention in one of the chat rooms over, I think it was on Spreaker the other night, they said, you know, if you want to get down to the truth, you really need to look at everything and not just a few things. And I think he makes a good point. And so broaden our horizons here and start looking at some other stuff. It's just some of the stuff is more fun to talk about, like what we're talking about tonight with Robert. And Robert Bonomo is a filmmaker, blogger, novelist, and esotericist. He's lived and worked in Madrid, San Francisco, Buenos Aires, Kamchatka, I probably said that wrong, Miami, Valencia, Cartagena, New York, China, and a few other places. I think he's actually in a new place now. All three of Robert's novels, Twilight Breakout, Cactus Land, and his latest release, Your Love Incomplete, are available as free downloads on Smashwords. But most of you know him from the 21 Faces of God that's on YouTube, and that's what we talked about last time while he was on the program. And welcome back to the broadcast, Robert. It's good to have you again, man.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Joe. Great to hear you again.
I'm sure I missed out on a bunch of other stuff because you got a pretty cool background and extensive background, but, you know, I didn't want to mess it up, so I just cut it off right there.
Oh, that's fine, yeah.
But I just wanted to talk to you again about this stuff because I don't know if you paid attention to the show last night, and you're probably busy and you didn't, but last night we talked with Dr. Hugh Ross, who's pretty well known. He's a biblical scholar. Well, he's an astronomer. I'll just say that, not so much a biblical scholar, but an astronomer who believes in the literal version of the Bible and creation. And I tried to talk to him about, you know, the symbols and metaphors and things, and he kind of agreed with me, but his stuff was more about astronomy and creation and how the Bible is a real thing. And I'm kind of with him on that, but I'm kind of also looking at other things like you do, like the tarot and other books where we learn about symbolism. And I think it's very important that we learn about these things because not only does it empower us, but these things are used against us sometimes, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just if you look in the media, they're constantly using symbols, and even more importantly, narratives that they repeat that engage us in a way. It's almost in a tribal way. It's like it turns a switch in us. So I think you have to be just always aware of those symbols and the narratives behind them and what they're trying to do to us.
Yeah, for sure. And I am particularly interested in the tarot. And every day I pull a few tarot cards and look at it. You know, when I first used to do that, Robert, I'd pull a couple of tarot cards and I'd feel kind of like I was doing a bad thing for some reason. Like, you know, I'm doing some type of evil thing here. And it had this mysterious vibe to it. But now it's a normal thing that I do every day because I believe that whatever's on the other side, whatever you want to call it, and we can talk about that, is trying to communicate with us. And I think we as a society need to learn how to communicate back. Yeah.
What deck do you use?
Well, I got a mixture really. So I've got a regular Rider-Waite deck, right? Which is like the basic one. And then I've got a Thoth deck, which is Crowley's deck. I've got a Gnostic deck from GnosticTeachings.org, which I'm really drawn to. And I've also got a deck that I got from BOTA, Builders of the Adytum, as Paul Foster Case's place, right? Where you color your own cards and learn about it and everything. So, yeah, I'm pretty basic when it comes to the tarot. No fancy stuff.
Well, you got a good collection there going.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only cool thing, well, I had some tarot cards in a tin can, you know, the little bright ones, Rider-Waite, that come in the tin can thing. And I gave it away to somebody I thought would actually care about it, but they didn't. So I kind of regret that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, the tarot is a good example. I mean, if you think of them as, especially the major arcana, I think it's important. They're kind of the building blocks of our consciousness. In the sense, and I don't mean that in a literal sense, but I mean it in the symbolic sense, that they're really archetypes. And those are, you know, 22 fundamental archetypes from which emerge reality itself. Because I think when we talk about this stuff, it's important to a lot of people would argue that there is no physical reality, that it emerges from us. And where you place consciousness in the picture, I think, is crucial.
Now, does that correspond with like the double slit type thing? Is that what you're talking about? You know, like there has to be an observer for something to be there, basically.
Exactly. And I was listening to a lecture from the Royal Society, where I believe it's the Royal Society or the Perimeter Institute, where they had a speaker talking about how like, for example, Heisenberg was convinced that there was no physical reality. It emerges through the questions we ask and where we place our consciousness. So if consciousness is fundamental, it's where we focus our consciousness is where that physical reality emerges. So it really is it's a completely different paradigm when you place consciousness as fundamental, as not something that emerges from life, but is the basis of all reality.
Yeah, then it shakes things up. It truly, you start to learn about like the Matrix a little bit. Like that could be real. Like at least the symbols in that movie might be real. But I don't know about the simulation thing. I think I've looked at that, and I'm curious what you think about it. I've talked to Thomas Campbell, who believes that consciousness is kind of a simulation that's perpetuating itself based on, what did he call it, more entropy and things like that.
Sure.
But that when it gets real scientific, that's when I start to get cross-eyed, because I don't really understand it. Like, I think I'm just stuck on this system of morality where I feel like, well, there has to be a system of morality. If this is a simulation or whatever, then nothing really matters. Then what are we here for? And you get into those super big questions, right? And I wonder about those things.
Yeah, I mean, the morality question is a fascinating one, because when I look at it from an esoteric point of view, for me, morality goes back to duality. And duality is how we experience the world. You know, light and dark, good and bad, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the fundamental duality is consciousness, if you want to call it that, or the spirit and the material world. And I see morality in that paradigm as pure evil is something that's pure material, and pure light or pure consciousness on the other side would be what morally we talk about as good. But I just see them as I see it through that sense of duality, the sun and the moon, for example.
I got you. Yeah, the symbolism of the sun and the moon that you find in all of esoteric, right? I got you. I just I don't know. Like I want to be this rogue, you know, that doesn't follow any system, right? And I find my own way through reality by interpreting symbols and certain things that I've learned through occult studies and certain awareness about what's being used against us. But there's just some really good systems of learning out there that I think we're tossing aside again. Like, for instance, and if you don't agree with me on this, it's totally fine. But for instance, like the Rosicrucian teachings, the Masonic teachings, stuff like that, where people look at it and they go, well, that's either conspiracy or they're ruling the world or whatever, or that's old hat. You know, we're in this new age of trying to figure out quantum physics and chaos magic. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know. I just think those things still matter.
You mean like the Masons, for example?
Yeah. It's like it's a system of morality, but it also teaches you, esoteric principles along the way, and it is like a group, right? Like when you get involved with it, it's an organization, and there's certain things that you have to do. But that's only if you're like involved with it. But if you study it, man, some of the teachings are great. But Masonry now is like, I mean, it's shrinking. It's going away. There used to be so many people per capita that were Masons, and now it's so small, it's nothing anymore. And I wonder why that is. I wonder maybe if it's because we're moving along or we're evolving from it.
I kind of agree with you. I think we're evolving away from something like the Masons. I mean, I think that, like, getting back to, like, for example, simulation theory, that narrative in the simulation theory, I think is something that's much more relevant today than, say, a lot of the Masonic thought. And I think in simulation theory, we're looking at a narrative, a a potential narrative that could really become the meta narrative. It's just got so much. It's just got teeth, and it makes, like, for example, in the film The Matrix, that idea that there's a good chance we are in a simulation.
You think there's people out there that know the truth, though? This is like the big question. Is there somebody out there, or is there an organization or a dark cabal or alliance or black magicians or archons, something out there that knows how this works, almost like an Agent Smith, and is running everything behind the scenes, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. That's a tough one. I would consider myself a Gnostic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's one sort of group that really attracts me, it would be the Gnostic side. And part of the Gnostic myth is that there are archons and a demiurge that seems to sort of run this world. So is there a group that's connected to that?
Right.
That's a tough question.
People call it really the Dark Cabal. I don't know if you've heard of that, but in the UFO community and others in conspiracy, they call it a Dark Cabal. But I'm like, okay, point at one of them, and they can't, right? And it's like, well, I think it's the Rockefellers. You think? Or is it the Bilderbergs? Well, they just have a sense of knowing. But I'm the kind of guy that's like, I need more than that, Where are they? Let's find these some bitches, That's what I want to know.
Yeah. I think just from an intuitive sense, I would say that there isn't. I would say that there isn't, at least on Earth, a group that really knows and controls. It's just something that doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Just because once I think a lot of your listeners and yourself, you've had experiences that give you that sort of touch of gnosis.
Right.
And I think once you've had that in a powerful way, that understanding, I think that the truth is so powerful and so transcendent. It's not something you can use in that sense, where the Rockefellers, have some formula and they use it to control the world. I don't see it that way. I really don't. I kind of agree with you. I think that's mythology. In a mythological sense, it works. Mythologically, when you talk about a group that controls everything, a little bit like the David Icke stuff.
Yeah, right.
With the reptiles and all that. But that's a myth. I think if we start thinking, there really are reptilians out there who are controlling everything, I think you lose, you miss the point. And that gets back to literalism. When you look at the Bible from a literal standpoint, you could be missing the entire meaning of the text.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but couldn't you? But see, here's the tricky part. Where symbols, like a symbol, could mean 6 or 7 different things, and they're all true, right? And so I wonder, like, sometimes if possibly, if the logos, like the Bible says, and other texts and esoterics texts talk about, is really alive, like it makes mythologies and stories come alive, right? Historically, you take that story of Jesus and you hear about all these different stories through Mithra and Egypt and all these different sectors of society and history, but we don't know for a fact that they're mythology, but we don't know for a fact either that they're history. And so sometimes I wonder that if not only are they mythology, but did they really take place in some kind of way? And that's the whole thing about archetypes, I think.
Right. But for example, the word was made flesh.
Yeah.
From a Gnostic sense, it's that flash of spirit that's trapped in the material world trying to escape.
I got you.
And when you think of, for example, the cross that way, the Christian cross as the vertical, as the timeless, and the horizontal as the time ridden, and Christ stuck right in the middle of that. That's where we're all put. That I think on that level, that can explain a lot. But if you actually try and say, well, there was, if we literalize it and put that into history, I think we're losing the point. It's like, well, who is it? Joseph Campbell, I think, talked about that. It's like going to a restaurant and eating the menu.
Yeah, right. You know? Right. I get what you're saying.
And so I think from when you look at it that way, I think looking for Christ in history, I think it's like looking for the truth in a bottle of bourbon. You know, it's real tempting, but you finish the bottle and, you know, you just get a headache.
You've had you've published some stuff in like LouRockwell.com, InfoWars, sure. Global Research, Active Post, Rents.com, stuff,
Counterpunch.
You know, and
Counterpunch. I'm very proud of the fact that I was published in Counterpunch, which is very, very left wing, and something like Lou Rockwell and stuff, you know, much farther on the right.
So you're known, or what they say about you is that you're a blooming anarchist. Do you agree with that? Are you an anarchist?
Yeah, for a while, I had a very powerful libertarian period, where I really just went. I became what you'd call an anarcho-capitalist, very libertarian, and it becomes like a dogma. And the problem is, at least with me, is what I began to rely on it a little bit too much. You know, there's a comfort in it when you find a dogma that works. But I think with like all dogmas, that it can be very useful and they can be helpful. But at some point, you got to let them go. You know, you got to get out of that boat, you know, and walk and do some more walking, you know, or some swimming or something. So I've moved away a little bit from that kind of dogmatic libertarianism, though I'd still consider myself politically more or less libertarian, more or less.
Kind of like, hey, I do my thing, you do your thing, we don't bother each other, pretty much, right? That's the viewpoint.
And also a fundamental belief that governments are basically, means of social control. And most evil in the world is carried out through governments. So a weak government, a neutered government, but enough government to keep enough that balance between chaos and order is necessary. But basically, the source of most evil in the world are governments and corporations, and sort of that fascist connection between the corporate and the governmental.
That's exactly what I believe too. Like we want to blame things on the cabal and all this stuff, and it could be. I'm not saying that's not going on or it's not happening, but the most obvious thing is like the deep state, the lobbyists, the corporations that are working with senators, and all the stuff that's behind the scenes that happens, that takes advantage of our system. I, on the other hand, I'm kind of like maybe I'm just because I'm young, like I'm only 37, compared to most people that are in politics and stuff. You know, the older you get, I guess, the more they talk about it. But I still kind of believe in the government that was there before JFK was shot. That government that thing that we were heading towards, that we all had hope when he was there. And then it was taken away from us. That kind of government I believe in, even though it wasn't perfect at the time, right? Mm-hmm. But some people argue the fact that it was inevitable because government and corporations are evil. And so every person of hope and change becomes a martyr eventually, right? That's what a lot of people believe. But I don't know. I think that we had a good thing and something came along and screwed it up, and ever since that shot rang out, it's been getting more dark behind the scenes, you know.
And one fascinating thing about Kennedy, I think, is himself, is that Kennedy as president really evolved. Most presidents don't evolve that much, but he evolved from a pretty traditional sort of conservative, Democrat from today's standpoint, no?
Yeah.
You know, his relationship with Mary Meyer is fascinating because she was connected with Timothy Leary, and I mean, there's a possibility that through her he was even taking acid, and really getting into some. Yeah. I mean, his relationship with Mary Meyer is fascinating. And remember, after she was shot on a street in D.C., what was it? I think it was the year after he was killed. And she was shot, basically assassinated. 2 shots, one in the head, one in the heart. So yeah, Kennedy evolved as a person, and I think there was something very dangerous about his evolution, dangerous to the deep state. Remember that secret society speech?
Yeah, he said, and I've almost memorized it. I think he said, "For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy." Think about the words he took the time to write in this speech: a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means of expanding its sphere of influence. Who is that?
And what? Yeah, and I've been on, I've done a lot of shows and things, and I'll have people ask me, well, you think it's the Jesuits that run everything, or is it the Masons, or the Rosicrucians? I'm like, look at the banksters; they're right there.
I've met Masons and Rosicrucians, and it's not those guys. I just don't. It can't be. Like it could be the church, like what Leo Zagami talks about, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But who runs the world are the banksters. And they run it through the deep state, the media. I mean, they're looking right at us. And I think they are thrilled when people try and point the finger at, the Vatican. I mean, let's face it, the Catholic Church is becoming pretty irrelevant in today's world. And they're a bunch of pedophiles. I mean, it's really sad. But the more you look at the Catholic Church, what's ruined the Catholic Church is pedophilia. And it's for example, that's a story that very few people are willing to accept. The fact that about 3% of people are pedophiles. And if you're a pedophile, what do you do?
God, that's scary, man.
No, but think about it. What do you do in 1965? You're 18 and you're a pedophile. You can't get, you don't want to get, what, you become a teacher? No, you join the Catholic Church. And that's what happened. It was a place where pedophiles could go and, do their thing. And it's kind of sick, but that's the truth.
It is the truth. It is the truth. And we're over break here. I got to take a break, but we'll talk more about this because I think Kennedy's speech was, I think he wrote every word in that speech and meant it all before whoever it was killed him. Was it really a dark cabal? And then what's going on in the media now? How can we use the symbols and the arcana to our advantage? And how can we understand it better so we know when it's being used against us? We'll be right back with Robert Bonomo. Don't go anywhere.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling, the ground shook, you could hear rushing water, and then history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails, stores with their shelves stripped bare, ATMs can't operate, deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand 3 truths. FEMA is broke, the system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137, now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247, now only $147, shipped in 1 business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
So, have you heard of heavy metals? I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. No, not cleansing the outside of your body, but cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Maladuquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The paranormal radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Tonight we're with Robert Bonomo. I made a mistake last night. I told you that we were going to have the guest on talking about the Bermuda Triangle tonight. That's actually tomorrow night. Tonight's Robert. I had him backwards. I had him mixed up. But so we're talking about occult symbolism, the Arcana, and as well as some deep-rooted conspiracies that is a frequent conversation. And we get this, I believe, cult-like mentality or victim mentality about certain things. And I understand it. I don't hate it. I don't get mad at it, Robert. But I think that it's one of those deals where we need to put ourselves in check sometimes and see what's really going on. Because in this community, and I think it's good that we question everything, that we wonder about what evils are running the world. But it's more important that we don't just, like I believe you brought up earlier, where we just believe something that go along with it without really looking into it. And that's important. But when I look into it, I think a lot of people just give up and they get frustrated with it. It's not fun to keep researching, and then you get to a point to where you just can't get answers anymore. And so you don't want to continue to live that life. And so you've got to choose to believe something. And I think that's more fun for certain people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the most creative point. When you get so frustrated that you can't believe in anything, something will emerge. Mm-hmm. And what emerges will be often a new dogma that will take you to another place where you'll get frustrated again. And that's the process. I think people make one enormous mistake. And in my life, this is one thing I've really learned, is to have a goal, and the goal be total understanding, the perfect dogma. That is not the goal. The goal is to continuously expand your consciousness. And when we think about those mathematical ideas of infinity and infinities that are greater than infinity, when you apply that to consciousness itself, it just continues to expand. There is no end. There is no singularity. There is no point which you'll reach. For example, heaven, the idea of heaven. I mean, when you think about that, heaven is time-bound. It's a place where you go and you exist in time. Yeah, you might wind up in heaven one day, but it's not going to last forever. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it sure is a pretty story, though, right? It's like the happy ever ending of bliss, and I can't wait to leave this place so I can go to heaven and get out of this prison planet where I never feel pain anymore, and everything is love. I'm like, don't you think that'd be boring if there's no pain, like there's no suffering? I know that sounds weird, but if everything's love and light all the time, you've got no reference point for anything. So some of that stuff don't add up to me.
Exactly. And when you think about it, if you apply time to it, the concept of time, something that's time bound, then nothing's happening. But if you remove time, and it's a timeless state of continuously expanding your consciousness, at least the experiences I've had point to something much more like that.
What do you think about the DMT thing, the whole pineal gland deal? Because what you just said right there is a lot of what these guys are saying. I think I talked about that for like a whole week on my show with certain guests and people that wrote books about it, and they really kind of believe that consciousness, based on the experiences that they've had, is kind of like what you're talking about. You can't describe it, but it's an ever-flowing, fluctuating type thing, and they actually saw it.
Yeah, and I saw it. And what I was talking about, it's interesting you brought up DMT. That was from a DMT experience.
Oh, you've done that? That's okay. Yeah, tell me what happened.
Yeah, I did. I had a 5-MeO DMT experience that was absolutely the most powerful experience I've ever had. And like all people, I think, especially the 5-MeO DMT, it's the most real anything has ever seemed. It's a different reality. It's a different dimension. And that's the great thing about DMT. It will send you to another dimension. You escape this world. You hit escape velocity with DMT.
Good, man. How can you not want to try that? Right? Like, my drug days are over. I hate to tell you guys this for those that y'all think I might be really cool doing hardcore drugs behind the scenes and stuff. But I don't. Like, I don't. And I'm a caregiver at Canna Sense, but I don't smoke weed, really, hardly, ever. And most people that know me well. But when people talk about DMT, I have to try it, man. Like, I have to at least experience that.
Joe,
I know that sounds bad, me saying it, but I've got to.
You got to do it. You got to do it. Because, I mean, I remember I was talking to a girl once who was, pretty religious. And I said, do you want to know God? I mean, actually just like shake hands, do the DMT. And I would say the 5-MeO DMT it's more of a spiritual trip. I said, go ahead. And I never forget the fear in her face. She's like, no. I believe in God, but I don't want to do anything like that. Why would you want to? Hey, you want to believe in God, or do you want to know God? If you want to know God, do the DMT.
Yeah,
it will completely change your consciousness. I just read an article the other day, I think it was in the New York Times, about how now they're using psilocybin now for people with depression.
Yep, and they're legalizing in places for that too already.
And
it's
doing wonders for people, because you get on these, what do they call them, like the serotonin uptake inhibitors.
Yeah.
What are they? And after a couple years, people just become dull, and life just loses all of its mystery and its magic and the enchantment of life. You do psilocybin, and that will just throw you for a loop, and you'll find that mystery in life again. And psilocybin, Psilocybin is like a firecracker, and DMT is, a hydrogen bomb. Put it that way. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. So,
Well, the first person that told me that was Gordon White, and because I'm a member at his website, and someone was talking to him about exactly what you were saying, about how they were depressed. I think they said something like they feel like Winnie the Pooh off Eeyore, or Eeyore off Winnie the Pooh, right? Just where woe is me, right? Might as well. I'm sure this is going to happen. Like always knowing the bad thing's going to happen, total dread, And he said entheogens, and at the time I had no clue what entheogens were until I looked it up. I felt kind of dumb, but I believe in it. I mean, it's like the earth is kind of saying, look at this stuff. We're trying to give you this to help you out, and you're not doing anything. But I haven't done mushrooms since I was in my teens, man.
Yeah, and it was interesting for me because Terrence McKenna's piece from McKenna. No,
I'm sorry, you're cutting out there for a second. What'd you say, Robert? Hello.
A little bit of Terrence. No? Oh, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think you're just cutting out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just mentioning Terrence McKenna and how McKenna kind of is the one that really got me into the idea of,
Well, sure. I think you're, I think you're cutting out. So I don't know if we need to call you or whatever, but also you're in what country are you in, by the way, right now?
I'm in Tunisia.
Yeah, so that might be it. It might just be a connection issue. It happens from time to time. But I am willing to try DMT. I don't know so much about mushrooms, but I would say, like, for sure, if I got depressed, if I became, like, super depressed, I feel like I would do anything to get rid of it. I would do whatever it took, because there's nothing worse than depression.
Absolutely.
I mean, the suicide rates are kind of going up. Our IQs are going down, according to some studies. So why don't we try it? Yeah, well, what we're probably going to have to do is take a break here and reconnect. Let me try this, actually. I'm going to go ahead and hang up on him. But yeah, so I think Robert's right. I think you should definitely try it. Like if you're depressed, and I've been there before. I've had depression so bad that it gave me anxiety. And I had, and the reason why I know that is because the doctor said, look, anxiety comes from severe depression. I would do anything not to feel that again. And there are people out there, I think, that are feeling that right now. Are you back with us, Robert?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just reconnected with you, but
sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
But for those people that have actually felt that, I think they should try it. Even if you've got to travel to wherever you got to go, Colorado, California, whatever you got to do, and just try it. I mean, you can take what are they called? Little. You don't have to take whole mushrooms.
Microdose.
Yeah, exactly. Just see what happens.
And the microdosing is something that's great because there's nothing really scary about it.
Yeah, I wonder what it makes you feel like. So you don't really trip that much, but it just kind of works on you a little bit, maybe. I have to look into that.
Right. It gives you a sort of it gives life and the day just a little bit of extra. There's a really interesting guy, James Fadiman, who talks a lot about microdosing. If you can put him in YouTube, he's a really interesting guy. He was a professor at Stanford. And very serious academic, and he spent a lifetime really investigating hallucinogenics. And I would highly recommend folks just look up James Fadiman, and he can really he's written a lot about microdosing.
Well, so when you had your DMT experience, did you talk to any entities or meet any entities, angels, anything like people talk about, machine elves? or did you just kind of see the construct of everything?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I was completely knocked out, so I went to black, and then when I woke up, I was in the other world, and I thought I had escaped. I thought I had escaped life. I was sure I was dead.
Oh, see, everybody says that. That's what freaks me out. Everybody thinks like that they died. You know, were you scared? Did you feel scared though?
It was pure bliss. I never forget. Are we allowed to use bad language?
Well, just not like F-bombs and stuff, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I won't use bad language, but when I came out of it, I was so filled with joy. I said, screaming at the top of my lungs. Later on, people said this. You know, I said, you've got to be blanking kidding me. That it was all like one big cosmic joke. It was pure bliss, but in just this laughter, this joy. And I kept saying that, like, I can't believe it's this real. You've got to be kidding me. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
And most people's DMT trips are quite short. Mine was like 45 minutes. And apparently they thought I actually was dead because they were taking my pulse. I kind of lost the pulse. And,
so
it was pretty interesting.
What's the difference between like 5-MeO DMT and the regular DMT? Is it more powerful or something?
Actually, it is. And it comes from, I believe most of it comes from toads. It's a toad. So they squeeze it out. It's a venom, I believe. They put it on glass and they dry it. So it's apparently more powerful, and it's less you don't get like the elves and things. It's less visual. It's a different experience. In the chemistry of it, I don't understand. But if you Google it or put it in there, you'll see that the experiences are different. And 5-MeO is being used by a guy in Mexico to help a lot of drug addicts. It's quite successful. You know, this guy's had a lot of success getting people off like crystal meth and things like that.
What about opiates? Does it help with that? Because that's the really big problem that everybody's having.
You know, that I'm not sure. But I know that with crystal meth, it has helped. But I think, you know, there are a lot of these sort of treatments, these alternative treatments, I think can really help people with that type of stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and again, I'll bring the fact up that that's what the problem is. Like, this country, the reason why people are depressed and the reason why a lot of these things are happening is because, you know, like when we're born, we don't know why we're here. Our parents tell us all this stuff, what to believe in, and then we end up growing out of it, or we don't, and we study and we try to find it out. And hopefully when you get to the point like where you're at and you start understanding, okay, a lot of this stuff is mythology, a lot of this stuff is symbolism, or what's this magic and occult stuff about? What's this tarot about? And you really start understanding that the language of consciousness is symbolism, right? That's what it is. And
exactly.
And then you start seeing it in the media and how it's used against us. I think when people get to that point of realization in their life, they start thinking about the big conspiracy stuff. Well, how do all these big corporations know how to use these symbols? And then they start talking about archons and demons and cabals, where I'm not so sure if it's maybe just somebody inherently knows the secrets of symbolism and how it influences people.
Well, sure. You know, I worked in advertising for many years. And what do we do in advertising? It's very, very simple. I change the words you use in your mind, which changes your thoughts, which changes your actions. And it's not like it works 100%, but on enough people, it will change enough people's actions to make my advertising campaign profitable. But now when you combine that with artificial intelligence, then you have entered a very dangerous world. Because what I used to do is the Stone Age to what they're doing today. Because when you take what I knew before and you apply artificial intelligence to it, it's like a sniper.
Yeah, because you can zoom in on the target audience easily, or your target customer super effectively.
Exactly. And that's what this is all about. But getting back to the depression side, why do people get depressed? And there's a simple answer. They're not asking deep enough questions. If you spend your life asking simple questions, you're going to lead a simple life, and eventually you're going to become frustrated and you're going to get depressed.
Right.
Push yourself towards those deep, difficult questions, and all of a sudden life becomes enchanted. You begin to see those synchronicities, and you feel the meaning in it. And then you know what? You don't need a reptilian mythology or whatever to give you meaning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dark space aliens that are influencing the planet or whatever. Yeah.
Think of that. I think if you're there, and we've all been there. I remember listening to David Icke, thinking, "Oh wow, this guy's this guy's really got it." And then now I listen to David Icke, and I kind of chuckle. But it's a place where we all have to kind of pass through. But remember, it's a stage. It's not the end. It's not the place you want to stay forever.
Well, where do you think, based on your experience and your studies, what do you think, and I'm not asking you what do you know, but what do you think happens when we die? Do you have even the slightest clue or opinion?
I know what happens because I think I died. When that DMT experience was pretty clearly, because I've looked at a lot of near-death experience, and it really coincides a lot with what happened to me. And I'm convinced that what we do is as our consciousness separates from our bodies, and this fits into the Gnostic myth, we begin to expand, I think, into this collective awareness, consciousness, and it's just an internal infinite expansion. And I think we probably end up dissolving into it.
Yeah, so that's scary to me. You lose your identity, basically.
Joe, once you get there, it's so powerful and so just amazing and so funny, absurdly funny. You see the absurdity of it all. And then as you expand in, at that point, I don't think it really matters. Honestly, I think that ego, that sense of I and the ego is how we experience consciousness through this body that we're in. But once you reach that other realm, it just becomes ridiculously absurd.
You lose.
That's why the dead don't talk to us because they're still laughing.
You lose the absurdity of the fear of death and reality. You mean, or the fear of losing your identity and death and all that?
I think once you experience that, as that consciousness expands in you, and you see the absurdity of our lives here, it's just a joke. And so that's why the dead don't speak to us. They are far, far gone into that consciousness. They're just laughing. And like I said, they're still laughing. They haven't had even time to remember.
Well, if the dead aren't speaking to us, then how do we explain clairaudience and audible voices that happen to certain people? I mean, I'm not saying go ahead.
Yeah, I just think what we're doing is we're tapping into that dimension. And when we tap into it, how do we speak to it? We speak through it through symbols and archetypes.
Gotcha.
And so when we hit a certain point, for example, it speaks to us through the archetype of the dead or of a spirit or of a demon or of an angel or whatever you want to call it. You know, it depends. Whatever you're basically, I think whatever tradition you're in, you're going to see it. I mean, think about the Virgin of Fatima,
right?
And UFOs. Is there really any difference? I don't really think.
Not really. I mean, if you look at it that way, not really. No. But I have to say that based on what you're saying, and I don't know if you're familiar with places like IONS and the Monroe Institute and stuff, but
sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they would. So when they would get out of body or whatever, they would help people that have passed away that were kind of stuck in between, I guess you could say. And a lot of times what they would say is, like Preston Dennett, Robert Monroe, I've talked to a bunch of people about this and read about it, is that they would guide these people to the light, so to speak, or whatever realm that is. And, the next thing they know, they'd look to the right and they'd be gone. And that's a frequent thing that happens. Okay, like, where are you taking me? Or I'm taking you to your family, or I'm taking you to heaven, or whatever. And they go, okay. And eventually they just dissipate. And, earlier you said that it's kind of funny that you said you just blend in with it all. I wonder if that's what's really happening, because these people that are having out-of-body experiences are still kind of halfway in the body and not all the way dead, so they're in the in-between realm. And they're helping these people that are dead blend in with the afterworld or something. That's really strange. It is creepy to me.
But Joe, yeah. But have you noticed how those stories all have a real mundane feel to them? Like they met somebody and they helped them. It's almost like that new agey feel. I'm sorry, but I'm convinced that I'm sure that they have entered a different realm, but they're interpreting it through narratives that they're familiar with.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, because they're still stuck in the body a little bit.
Exactly. They're looking at it through those lenses, and so they see it through those narratives.
Wow.
I really think that's what's happening there.
I want to talk about this more. The conversation's good when you look up and you're late for break again, right? So, yeah. We'll be right back. Look, if you got any questions, you can call in too. I think the phones are open, but I'll open the phones up during the break if you want to call in, ask any questions, or tell us about your experience with Robert Bonomo. Stay with us.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Get the Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health. Naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you're interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Did you know that qualified patients can access medical cannabis in all 50 states? Cannasense is a medical cannabis collective that helps patients in all 50 states gain access to cannabis medication. Cannasense does this with a streamlined process and strict compliance with the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Affordable Care Act, and the U.S. Constitution. It is important for each patient to understand the legalities involved, the cost, and the benefits of cannabis medication. Through truth, legalization, and education, The medical benefits of cannabis will supplant recreational perceptions, and the real vision for change will be realized. Let the people and their personal doctors take control of their medical cannabis decisions before the greed of big business takes over. The tipping point for change is today, and CannaSense is ready to lead the charge and enable legal access for all qualified patients to medical cannabis through its proven system. For more information, go to thefringe.fm/care or click the banner on the website today.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
All right, again, I'm fascinated by this whole DMT thing. We're with Robert Bonomo, by the way. If you're just joining us, I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. We're live on the Fringe FM. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335 if you want to call that number. I am. The phone lines are opening up now. You can text into it 501-777-5631. And if you get in that phone line, by the way, it's a queue system, so you have a pre-recorded thing where it tells you to be nice and try to watch your language and be respectful. And then, you know, once it gets in, you'll hear a little music, and then I'll see your number and pick it up. I don't have the normal phone system, but Robert, before the break, was talking to us about DMT, about how you went into dissipated into the realms of consciousness, and it all seemed kind of mundane or absurd and silly to worry about losing your identity at that point. And so, but even when you say that, Robert, like, even when you say that, I still feel a little afraid of it. Like, I can't imagine a world where, well, not just a world, but a reality where I, as Joe Roop, I know I'm not going to exist one day, but I can't imagine just not caring about it, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it. But think about, from a religious standpoint, what did Jesus say about, no man can have two masters? And so if who's your master? Is your master the material, physical Joe, or is it the horizontal part, or is it the vertical part? I
get what you're saying.
Remember Martha and Mary? Remember, Martha's the horizontal, Mary's the vertical. Martha. I always say that to people.
But so you weren't worried, like, I'm not coming back. That's okay with me. You were totally fine with it. Totally fine.
No, it wasn't. I was totally fine. It was such joy and bliss that when I actually came back, when I came back, I really thought that everything was an illusion. Everything was a metaphor until there had been a dog around where we did this. And the dog, I was sure that it was still just like a game until the dog licked my hand. And then I was like, oh, no, I'm back. I really didn't want to come back.
All right. It looks like we got a 360 area code. You're on the air with Robert. Who are we speaking with? Oh, hold on a second. Let me make sure our phones are working. But yeah, I gotta do this. So, like I told Robert during the break, I said, yep, I'm definitely going to do this. Like, I know for a fact I'm going to do it now. And, There's no doubt about it. And it made me nervous. It actually made my stomach tighten up just a little bit thinking about it. You know, but I got to. How can you not want to try something like that if you're a seeker? Like, if you really want to know. I think some people are afraid they're going to die or something, you know?
Yeah. You know, one thing that's important, it's very important with I think with DMT in general and the 5-MeO maybe even more. There was a guy on Joe Rogan's show who had written a book last year, a very popular book about psychedelics and hallucinogens, and Rogan asked him about the 5-MeO, and the guy said, well, I didn't have that great an experience. And Rogan told him, oh, you didn't take enough. And I was thinking, no, that wasn't the problem. The problem was he was holding on. And I've seen people take the 5-MeO and they get terrified. Imagine you're like on one of those rockets, a NASA rockets, and you're like holding on to it, and then all of a sudden you get scared. You know, when you hold on to that rocket, you're just going to go boom. You know what I mean? You got to just let go and say, whatever happens, happens.
I got you.
And if you're not ready for that, then because it takes a certain amount of fortitude.
Takes some bravery. There's no doubt about it. Because I'm going through it in my mind right now, how nervous I would be. Looks like someone's Portland number. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with? Hello. I just heard you. I'm going to have to hang up. Hello. You guys hear him? I know you can hear me.
I hear something.
Can you hear me? Are you there?
Robert, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. You hear him, Robert?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, man?
Oh, good. This is Ferris from Portland. Hey, I just had a question for you. How do you know that your experience is I guess, in quotes, the truth, and these people who have other experiences, such as, going into the other realms and seeing these people, is not the reality. And it's not to say that I think either one is right or wrong. That's not it. I'm just curious how you validate it as being the truth. And then also, where can I get some of this?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know if we can say that stuff on the air, but it's highly illegal.
If you look around, you'll be able to find, look around and find some place that's reputable and do it with, professionals and whatnot. But your question is fantastic. I love that question. And here's how I know. Because when you have that extremely powerful spiritual experience, and you can read about it from all traditions, people who have this, it goes beyond words, beyond narrative. There is no way to explain it. So when people start to explain it like, I found this guy, and when it's put into those narratives, I'm not saying that the experience wasn't true, but it's a different type of experience, if you follow me. Because when all traditions, the truly transcendent moment is just beyond anything that you could ever explain in a simple narrative form.
So once you do it, then you know. You just have to do it to know.
That does make sense. It's quite interesting. And Robert, did you have a book? I'm sorry, I jumped into this conversation a little bit late.
Yeah. Sure. You got a few books. Yeah, go ahead and plug them out. Shout them out.
Yeah, I got a ton of books. But what I'd recommend is, if you want, I think my most interesting ideas was from the film, The 21 Faces of God. It's on YouTube for free. Just pop that into YouTube, The 21 Faces of God, and you might want to begin on this section on archetypes. It's a long film, but it's broken into sections, and there's one section on archetypes that'll kind of give you a nice introduction to my kind of thinking.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Thanks for calling, Ferris.
All right, well, I appreciate your taking my call, and hey, Joe, I'm glad to hear that you're back up and running and you're feeling great. I caught your podcast update as well. So anyhow, I'll jump off of here and let some others jump on. You guys have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. Take care.
You too, man. Take it easy, brother.
All right, let's see. Maybe we'll try this again. 360 area code. You're on the air with Robert Bonomo. Can you hear us? Hello. I hate that when you hear the static. You know they can hear you, but they don't answer you. It's kind of creepy. It's kind of poltergeisty. Going once.
360.
Going
360. Where is
360. Hello.
That's in Washington. Can you hear me, Joe?
Yeah, we hear you. I think there's just a little connection issue. Who are we speaking with?
It's Patrick.
Patrick, what's up, brother? Yeah, I didn't recognize the number.
Hey. Yeah, that's all good. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. What's on your mind?
Well, I kind of missed out on the last 5 minutes, so I'm not sure where you're at. But just kind of going back to the DMT thing, I was curious, Robert, were you fully lucid as you went into the 5-MeO experience, or do you kind of black out almost like anesthesia or passing out, and then all of a sudden you kind of start to realize where you're at?
Yeah, great question. So what I did was you hit it's like a pipe. It's almost like one of those glass tube pipes. And the guy, you take one hit, 2 hits, and then the third hit, he holds your nose, and I passed out. So I fell back on a mat and went completely black. So imagine you're completely black, and then you wake up. And when I woke up, there was a period of I was out, like I was knocked out. And then when you woke up, all of the people around me who were there before were still there, but I saw them as welcoming me into that next dimension. So it was really bizarre. They were there, but they were different.
Patrick, you're saying, like you know. Do you know? Did you have this experience too?
No, not externally with a substance like that, but like, have you ever had surgery and had anesthesia and know what that feeling is like when you come out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It kind of makes me think of that, where you don't really. It's weird. It's like you have no memory of that being unconscious, but then as you start to come out of it,
it's like you're coming out of a dream. It starts slipping away.
Yeah, kind of like some part of you knows what was going on and seems familiar, but time is there's no time anymore. There was no ego, so it's kind of that void experience.
But I wouldn't say that I had no sense of ego. I think the ego, at least for me, was still there, but it was the most lucid and the most real in every sense, in the sensory sense, in the spiritual sense, in the emotional sense, the moment of my life by far.
Look, I got to tell you guys something. Anesthesia freaks me out. Okay, because every time I've had it, whatever you experienced, Patrick, I didn't. There was nothing, no time, just. The last thing I remember was my head feeling real foggy and burning, and then I wake up. That's it. I've never had a transition in anesthesia. And after seeing put in that stuff and how they have to, give you all this kind of stuff and it has to be the perfect blend or you could die, it just freaks me out every time.
No, same here. That's kind of what I mean. I wonder what happens when we're in that space. And then it just kind of how Robert was describing it makes me think of that. And it also makes me think of this thing that happens every once in a while in the middle of the night. I'll have a similar feeling where it's just like blackness, and then all of a sudden there's kind of like an awareness, and then little by little the pieces start to come in. At first, suddenly there's an I, but I doesn't know anything. And then all of a sudden I is like, I am here. I am Patrick. I'm in my house, I think.
I'm really getting freaked out right now. I'm telling you. I've got goosebumps.
I guess basically what I'm getting back to is that this is just food for thought or conversation. Like, is that kind of like me or us slipping into that melting back into everything of oblivion, I guess you'd call it?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I mean, is that what happens a little bit every night?
Right.
And
Or
I'm
just
absolutely
all
sure
the
that's
time.
that's what happens. That when we go into the dream world, we slip a little bit into that DMT land, just a little bit, but we interact with it. And when we come back, like you said, then you all of a sudden realize, you see what I mean? Yeah, like I think you get a touch of it every night. I really do believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm fascinated.
Well, thanks for calling, Patrick, and sharing that. You freaked me out a little bit more. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right, brother.
Thanks
take
for
care.
taking my call.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, see you.
So once we start learning these things and we have this experience, how can we interact with it? And I'm trying to say, like, can we use the understanding of symbols to start learning how to better interact with that realm that you went into?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Is it possible?
Yes,
right?
yes. I think it is, in the sense that where do these symbols emerge from? Because if consciousness is primary, it speaks to us first in symbols, and think of the ultimate symbol as number. You know, when you talk about the universe as numeric, first in number, then in images. And so these images are emerging out of that. So they can help us get a sense of that world. That's why I like to think of for example, the 21, when the 21 faces of God, the 21 major arcana, with the Fool aside, the Fool being us. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of a kind of an idea of what surrounds us. I'm not saying it's the ultimate one or the only one, but it's a powerful one.
Yeah, I got you. You know, I've had my volume down the whole time we've been talking. I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had my volume down too far. But you I'm jealous in a way of what you saw, but because what frustrates me is I want to know what you saw. It's like I want to know what you saw before I do it, but I don't think, and what you experienced before I go down this road. But I don't think that's possible. And what I'm understanding is that it's just not possible. This is like an experience that you have to have. You can't write this in a book.
No,
you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no way that I could transmit any of this. I can't. But remember, I think, and people say, is this DMT the only way to do this? Absolutely not, because people have had just all sorts of incredibly powerful spiritual experiences without any kind of drugs. So it's just one of the ways. But always, when they come back, it's beyond words. When people tell you, oh, I went and I met these, the heads of the planetary system, and they told me that, we should be good people and, eat fish, that there's something a little bit,
Eat fish?
You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Or whatever it is, eat.
That they didn't go all the way in, or they're interpreting things through their own brain. I got you.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Well, that it just does. It makes a lot of sense. But what I'm worried about is, and what me and another friend of mine, like Ryan Gable, who's been on the program, he's also a host on the network. It seems like that there's a lot of people that are, and this is going to sound bad, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but so many people are talking about DMT that it seems like a cult or something. Not a cult, but more of like maybe a cult mentality, that this is the way to enlightenment, so it's good to hear you say it's not the only way, because I think some people, once they have that just such a profound experience, they feel like, well, all this mystery teachings and magic and all this religious spiritual stuff, all I got to do is DMT. And I think maybe that's what happened to Terrence McKenna. like we don't know how many times he did it, but if you listen to him talk about it, he has explained that experience better than anybody. And he died of brain cancer, and I wonder if it wasn't because there was overactivity in his brain.
But I think Terrence was deeply connected, and he wasn't a perfect person, or he wasn't a saint or anything. But I think Terrence McKenna, his take on a lot of things was spot on.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I love Terrence. He's just one of those guys you just got to kind of love, I think.
Well, do you think that there are things that are in that realm, that are in that construct, that are helping us along in our life? Like, that's what I get from people. Like, I talk to these machine elves, I talk to these entities, or whatever it is, that, how do I word this? Because this is so hard to explain. That are helping us through communication, like through, say, the tarot or runes or geomancy or whatever we're using for divination and synchronicity, trying to communicate with us between these two realms? Or do you think that that's all just not real, it's kind of made up?
I think we got to be careful when we want to take things that are just beyond good and evil or language or common narrative and put them into simple narratives. But on the other hand, the tarot for me is something through divination I feel connected. When you do a lot of readings for people and there's those connections, I always tell people I get more out of readings than usually they do, because I get that connection. And sometimes it's really powerful. No, but above my tarot cards, I have 1 Corinthians 13. I have that right above my cards. Because divination will always be partial. Knowledge will always be partial. But the truest thing we can experience is pure love. We should always keep that in mind. And I think you got to stay centered in this, you know what I mean? Because nothing, like what is it in Corinthians that talks about, all knowledge will disappear. And it will. And no divination was going to be perfect, right? But love is. So you got to stay centered there too,
And you felt that? Did you feel that love in that realm?
Oh my God! But it's a love that you can't imagine. You can't imagine.
Yeah, because I remember when I was back in the rave scene when I was in my 20s, I used to take like ecstasy, and I thought I felt love.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, you do feel it. Right?
I remember those nights.
I don't know if it's a trick. Is it more than that? Is it the same? Right? Because
God, it's much more. It's much more. But for example, that love you feel on ecstasy. Remember that love when it's just like the music and you love everybody. But put that, like I said, if that's a firecracker, think about a hydrogen bomb.
How can the body even handle that? How can it be more? Right? I remember feeling like, okay, this is going to sound real junkie-ish, right? And real kind of sleazy, but I've got to tell you about this experience, man, because when I was 19, I used to go to rave parties. It was like my favorite thing to do, and try to find some LSD or try to find some ecstasy or whatever. And me and my buddy went to one, and this, you can go into a rave and you can get any of that stuff if you go to a good rave. You can find anything you want, And we were walking around and said, well, let's forget the acid tonight. Let's try to find some ecstasy. And I know this sounds bad, but keep in mind, folks, this is in my past, okay? It's not me now, right? And so this girl comes up and she's like, hey, do you guys want to roll? And I'm like, what are you talking about, bread rolls, crescent rolls? And she goes, no, like, do you want to roll like ecstasy? And I was like, okay, yeah. And I couldn't understand what she was saying, so she was talking really weird. And I said, well, is it good? And it was a little pill that had spots on it, And she's like, oh, yeah, it's great. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm getting some of that, right? Because she can't even talk, And so I take some of that stuff. I took a whole pill. Never took it in my life, And my buddy took one. And this is why I'm asking, before I finish this story, this is why I'm saying, how can it be more? And I wait like 20 minutes, and I'm like, man, I just gave this girl $30 for nothing. Let's get out of here. I was pissed off. I left, and we're riding in this like extended cab black truck. It's 2:00 in the morning, no traffic on a road that's way out of the city. And it hits me all at once, right? Just bam. And, the road, like the stripes on the road, they kind of rose up beside me, if that makes any sense. And I looked over and I'm like, what is that? And I started feeling, and Aaron looked at me and goes, you okay, man? And it kind of like, like it hadn't hit him yet, And again, it kind of was like, I don't know. And everything started moving really slow, And when he said, man, it's hot, I'm going to roll down my window. When he rolled down his window, everything went into like Twilight Zone, like reality, and everything shrunk from like to this little bitty dot, and I thought and I just, I grabbed the seat real hard. I'm like, I'm about to die, dude. I'm about to die. And he goes, no, he's like, no, man, you're not going to die. I think it's just hitting hard. And, and because I couldn't see, and and then it all hit, and it was like this intense feeling of pure, I don't know what to call it. I wouldn't call it love. It felt like love, but it was more like a body high, a head high. Plus I love everything in the world. And at that point, bliss. And he goes, do you really think you're going to die? And I said, yep, but I don't care, right? Like, I don't care at this point. And it stopped freaking me out after that point, right? And I started telling him and talking to him about how I loved my girlfriend and I loved my family. And he's like, shut up, man. Like, this stuff isn't really working, And then we got home. We got back to the house, and we were rooming in like one of those double wide trailers. And he goes, well, I guess mine didn't work. And then he sits on the couch and he goes, oh, hell. And I was like, yeah, And then it started hitting him. And then he grabbed a hold of the couch. He goes, dude, I think you're going to have to take me to the ER. I was like, oh, no, just relax. Remember what you told me? Just breathe, buddy. All right. And I never did it again after that because it was just way too intense. And you're telling me that DMT, which I can't possibly imagine, is more than that?
No, but Joe, I'm not telling you it's more than that. I'm telling you it's firecracker to hydrogen bomb. That's what I'm telling you. Because I've done ecstasy before, and I remember that feeling, hanging out with a girlfriend with the music and dancing and that I just love you, baby. It's great. It's great, dude.
We were pissed. We were like, damn, we should have stayed back at the rave,
Yeah, but I'm just thinking you guys should have driven back. You would have had a hell of a night.
Well, there wasn't no driving going to happen at that point, but I don't, so that's why. Everybody's wondering why is he so worried about that it's more? Because that was the most intense high I've ever felt in my life, right? And I don't want it. It kind of scared me, and the initial let go, is it like that where you just have to let go and don't fight it?
Yeah, and like I said, when you do the 5-MeO, I saw a girl do it and get really terrified.
Yeah.
And she couldn't let go. And so you've got to reach escape velocity. And if you fight it, you won't get there. On that Rogan interview, that's what it was clear to me that's what happened to this guy. He was afraid, and he wouldn't let go. He said he was afraid. If you don't let go, you don't get out. You got to let go and just say, you know what? If I die, I die. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Sorry.
No, I get it. That's how I felt. Like, because I felt like I was out of my body kind of, and everything was real small, Like, look, we done went over break again. And he's like, if you're going to die, I'll take you to the ER. And I'm thinking, I don't care. Let me die. Just don't bother me from this. This is great, But at first I didn't feel it. It really freaked me out. But anyways, yeah, so now everybody thinks I'm a drug head and a junkie. That's wonderful. And but that was a long time ago. So now why I ask so many questions about this type of stuff, because I think we all want to know. We'll take any more of your questions if you got. I haven't looked in the chat rooms yet, not really, to see if you got any questions for Robert. We'll be right back.
Lighting the Void Radio.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. Monkeys keep killing people in India. One evening last November, a young woman named Neha was feeding her infant son inside their house in Rankata, a small town in the outskirts of Agra, India. Suddenly, a monkey broke into the house, snatched the baby boy from her arms, and made away with him. Neighbors chased the unexpected kidnapper with stones, but to their horror, the baby was soon found lying, blood-soaked, on a nearby terrace. Despite being rushed to the hospital, Arush, who was just 12 days old, did not survive. Perhaps this sounds like a freak tragedy, a rare case of wild animal behaving outside its natural order. But truthfully, there was nothing especially rare about this incident. Less than a month before, in nearby Tikri, a 72-year-old man was stoned to death as he was scavenging for dry wood, when a troop of monkeys in the surrounding treetops rained bricks down on him after picking them up from a nearby construction area. Elsewhere in Himachal Pradesh, 86 cases of monkey attacks were registered with the state government from 2017 to 2018. In one strange incident, a monkey was spotted playfully showering fistfuls of cash at passing strangers from a treetop in Shimla after picking up over $140 from a nearby home. Other incidents of hostile simians turning on humans have been reported across Tamil Nadu and Odisha. Source, Gizmodo.com. And 7 people have died in a week as Mount Everest is hit with a record number of climbers. 7 people have died last week alone on Mount Everest as climbers face heavy traffic at the mountain's dangerous summit. The AFP reported that Nepal issued a record of 381 permits at $11,000 each to hopeful mountaineers this past spring. Over 200 climbers attempted to reach the peak on Wednesday alone thanks to good weather, with one deceased climber waiting in traffic for over 12 hours. This too was reported at Gizmodo.com. And let's take some time for some interesting animal fun facts. Snakes are true carnivores, as they eat nothing but other animals. They do not eat any type of plant material. An iguana can stay underwater for up to 28 minutes. And crocodiles and alligators are surprisingly fast on land. Although they are rapid, they're not agile. So if you ever find yourself chased by one, run in a zigzag line. You'll lose him or her every time. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada.
You know, I was just talking to Robert Bonomo, who's our guest tonight. I can't believe I told that story. And if you're just tuning in, I'm kind of glad you missed it. But I totally forgot that, you know, my son's with his mom. I really hope he's not listening. He's 15 years old. And if you're listening, Corbin, never do what I did, because I could have died. Okay? The truth is, don't listen to Robert's laughter. It's not that fun. Okay? I could have died. Right? You know, and no offense, Robert, but don't do that, Corbin, if you're listening. He does listen to this show. I totally forgot about that, man. Because he's going to say, like, well, you did it. You know, I can do it. You know what I mean? It's like
you dug yourself into a hole there.
Foot in mouth, like, once again, you know. And I always wondered why. I always wondered why radio hosts never talk about those kinds of things. And that's probably why, especially if they got kids. You know, they can always come back to haunt you. But I feel like, man, we can't get to the truth of these things without talking about this stuff, you know? I really think we got to talk about it. We got to stop being so, you know, cut and, I guess, edgy or too straight. Squares, that's the word for it. And, you know, and talk about things that are difficult. There's a whole lot, this idea, Robert, that it's not really in podcasting. It's more in the radio world and ufology and the new age, that you can't talk about controversial things because you might hurt somebody's feelings or you might make somebody upset. I just don't agree with it. I think that's unhealthy. I think there's a way to talk about these kinds of things. You just don't be rude and just question things, right? I mean, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the potentials of these substances to explore different realms, I mean, let's just do a little bit of sort of an experiment here. How far do you think the CIA has gone in experiments with DMT?
That's
where you, for example, ask somebody to go and explore a certain topic, a certain question with the dosages. Imagine, I mean, I'm sure the CIA has given people dosages of this stuff that will send them to, you know, Pluto and see what they come back with. I mean, God only knows what they know about this. But I just want to tell one story about James Fadiman, who is the guy we talked about before about the microdosing. He was studying, they were experimenting with LSD at Stanford, funded by the CIA in the 60s. So they would give engineers different dosages of LSD and to see how it affected their cognitive abilities.
Right.
And he tells the story. It's fascinating that one day the phone call comes, all funding is stopped, and none of this stuff, this should never be, you know, you can't investigate it anymore. It will be illegal, et cetera, et cetera. So what did they find, and why did they stop this? I think it was, I can't remember the date, but it was the mid to late 60s. So this stopped being studied in universities at that time in a way that was funded by the CIA. So they've been doing this since 1967 or 68 or whenever it was in a dark operation, for sure. There's no way they're not exploring this stuff. So what have they found? What have they discovered? You know, and in the public realm, we've been, what is it, almost 50 years now where this stuff, at least in open academia, hasn't been explored at all. And that's a real shame. I mean, that's a real shame, I think.
I think Strassman was one of the first people to actually take it seriously and do some real studies on this stuff. But yeah, I know they go dark on it. It's kind of like that documentary that came out, Third Eye Spies, where they showed that they did get some real results with remote viewing, and it even showed pictures of like Robert Monroe that was there and stuff. And then they just, you're right, they just cancel the programs. And then if you look at the documents, like you can go to blackvault.com or something like that and look at the documents. They say, well, there was some pretty good evidence there, but not enough to where we found it inconclusive. But then you see all the stuff that's marked out and files you can't get. So they're definitely going dark with this stuff. They have to be.
I mean, think about that $23 trillion that's missing, you know, from the defense budget and from HUD.
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard about that, the famous $23 trillion. So, I mean, where did this money go? I mean, I've got to believe that there's a couple $1 billion that they've spent in these black budgets doing certain research in this area. And what have they found? God only knows what they found.
You think that they're crazy enough to experiment on us like that, though? Not like if you take Missing 411, what's that guy's name? Paulides or whatever, David Paulides.
Right.
I wonder if they are doing experiments on us, just, you know, kidnapping random homeless people, just stuff like that. I know it sounds sadistic and crazy, but I don't think that these military industrial complex or any of these countries, especially when it comes to us and Russia, they're willing to do whatever to get the edge on the other one. I totally believe that.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about what we know and what we don't know on these, for example, what the deep state is doing, just in research, no, maybe, and even with just volunteers, I'm sure that they have uncovered some fascinating stuff. I'm sure they have.
How do we get out of this matrix? You know, that's what I'm wondering, because I'm starting to feel like the more we talk about it, the CIA and stuff, it reminds me of the Matrix. At the break, you were reminded me that they just had their 20th anniversary, right? So,
right.
Do you think that we're just not going to get out of this thing until we die, or the DMT or pineal gland experience is really the closest thing we'll ever see to it? Like, I want to be able to interact.
You mean beyond this realm, you know?
Exactly.
Well, one thing that helps me is divination, because through divination you see that there's something beyond that. These synchronicities in life. Well, I mean, once you begin to live that sort of enchanted life, you see these synchronicities, and then you see doing things like divination that something is going on. So at least through divination, you get a hint. You can get a gentle hint. And I also think in great art, you can also get a glimpse. You can get a glimpse, just a slight glimpse.
But
in high art.
Painting and stuff like that, like abstract painting or just painting. I could definitely see it in Renaissance paintings, you know. Yeah,
or just listen to Bach. You know, you listen to Bach, and there's something there that's just, it's special. You know, it's very. I think that's one way to go. What are there other ways? I think I hate to say this because everyone says it, but it's true. Meditation is just crucial for focusing the mind and keeping and just allowing yourself to sort of escape that noise.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that's really important to keep in mind is that with these hallucinogenic experiences, brain activity goes down, not up. Especially the part of the brain that connects all of the other parts. I'm not a big scientist, but there's a part of the brain that seems to connect all the areas. The activity in that area of the brain in these DMT experiences goes way down. So we actually begin to experience something beyond the way the brain interprets it for us. You know what I mean? It's like going beyond the software.
Beyond the normal of our interpretations, right, yeah.
Exactly, because it limits us. It's absolutely necessary to function in this world, in this realm. But in the realm beyond, to touch that other realm, the brain is it's a filter. You know, it's kind of like Plato's cave, that whole idea.
Well, but see, then again, like what the caller brought up earlier, that even though you experienced what you experienced, you were still kind of in your body in a way, right? So
yeah.
You might have still been filtering at that point.
Oh, and I'm sure I was. I mean, I don't think I got the full, you know, there was something beyond. And I do remember this was an important moment in that experience. I fell, but when I fell, I felt I was falling through these realms, and there was a very interesting feeling. I would try and reach out and grab, and they gently told me, let go. And I kept feeling it would get more intense, like the opening, and then I'd want to hold on, and they'd say, let go. So I was absolutely sure that I hadn't gotten the full fall through into the bottom or the top.
Did you feel like your body was falling? Like you know how you feel when you fall?
I did. I did have a feeling like, yeah, there was still some weird connection to the body.
Wow. Okay. So just real quick, the 5-MeO, that's right, 5-MeO DMT.
Yeah,
5-MeO.
That
is the, I guess you could say, the more spiritual kind, or the more potent, maybe?
As far as I understand it, now, folks ought to Google this because they'll get it. But as far as I understand it, the 5-MeO is more, I guess it's more potent. And it does seem like the experiences with the 5-MeO are a bit more on the spiritual side. When I guess the other DMT is a little bit more like that Terrence McKenna with the elves kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's also, too, I want to say a disclaimer here, that just because I said that I might do it, doesn't mean that I'm recommending anybody does it, because I think anytime you do something that has this kind of experience, this powerful experience, that you should not do it just because other people say it's totally safe, you know, even if nobody's died or whatever. Like, we don't know your condition, or your psychological condition, your heart condition, anything like that. I would, you know, check with your doctor before you do DMT. Like, how many people are gonna go ask their doctor, like, you think it's okay if I smoke some 5-MeO DMT? Right? You know, their doctor's gonna say absolutely not. Right? But I don't want people to think that I'm just like saying, yeah, go do it, it's safe, because that's even Dick Kahn, who wrote DMT in My Occult Mind, which is a big thick book about all his DMT experiences that he had, like 600 or so. And he told me that the 5-MeO DMT, when he did it, he thought he was going to die, but he had an experience to where he couldn't breathe and he was having respiratory problems, you know, just really freaking out. And so that tells me that this is not something like that I worry about my health. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just put something in there and then die from it. Be like, well, Joe tried DMT, and guess what? He's the first one that died from it. That's what I think would end up happening.
I was sure that I almost died. I passed out for 45 minutes. I mean, they were taking my pulse, trying to get me to wake up with water. I mean, it was almost like one of these call the ambulance deals. So yeah, nothing is totally safe. And, you know, yeah, is this dangerous? I have no idea. So, like you say, you know,
disclaimer. Yeah. So
yeah, big disclaimer.
Sure. But what it does indicate to me, though, is that there definitely is something there. when it comes to like the pineal gland and the studies of, Aaron Voot and Graham Hancock and all these guys that, John Anthony West, they all talk about the third eye. And I think that they have come to the conclusion now that the pineal gland does have something to do with it, and the pituitary gland. And if you read Manly P. Hall, he talks about that system in the body will eventually become understood as the most important system and more studied system in the human body in the future. I don't know if that's happening now, but I wonder about that sometimes. Like all the religions, right? Everything that we believe has been based on somebody's DMT experience, whether they were taking it or they happened to get there through meditations and mantras or something. It does make you wonder about that.
But I think there's a danger here, and the danger is that people might take this on a purely from a materialist point of view, that it's just all about a chemical. And that's it. Remember, it's that esoteric idea of as above, so below, that there's a material aspect to every spiritual concept. And that's really important to keep in mind. So even though it may emerge from some kind of chemical reaction, it doesn't mean it is a chemical reaction, if you know what I mean. It's like you could say love. Okay, love is, you see a very attractive young lady and your hormones go berserk, and are the hormones love, or is love creating the hormones? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the scientists have explained it like it's a trick that releases oxytocin in your brain and makes you really love them or something. I get what you're saying. So you're saying that there's a spiritual correspondence for every material thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's a fundamental esoteric truth. Fundamental.
Yeah, I do too. Because I've actually experienced that myself, and I totally agree. But again, I don't know how to explain the fact that I know that there's something there, and this is the hardest thing I've had to explain on this show, but I know other people know what I'm talking about. I know there's something there. I know what you're talking about is real, but I still have that doubt in my mind. It's still there. It's getting smaller, but it's still there, that this is all just a part of the brain, that it could be.
Right. And I know I've been repeating myself 100 times. Do the DMT, and then you'll have no doubts. Because I could tell you to meditate for 10 years, and maybe you'll get that experience. But if you do the DMT, it's going to happen. You pull the trigger, and boom. So like Craig McKenna used to talk about that too.
Yeah, well, I get it, because if you look at real initiation, like the old initiation processes, whether it's Eastern or Western, there's a lot of studying and learning and meditation and cleansing and fasting and things like that. And I think it's I think those things are good. I think you should do those things, but I don't think everybody got there, right? I mean, didn't Pythagoras talked about that? They had students that, would study under him for years, and if they never got to that point, they never got there. But you're also keep in mind, those mystery schools are being delegated and regulated by somebody that thought they understood the mysteries more than you, right? And maybe they did. Right. I don't know. Maybe they did.
True. And I mean, Pythagoras, I believe the Pythagoreans had to spend 5 years in silence.
That's right. Yeah, that's what it is. You're right. Yeah.
So, how many people can spend 5 years? You know what I mean? We are where we are right now in this world. And you can go the material way. You can get your iPhone and sit there and play with it all day, or you can go the other way. And, a lot of people, like I said, they're not asking the right questions, and they're winding up frustrated. And that's how you can get in trouble. I don't mean trouble with the police. I mean trouble with, with life, with depression, anxiety, and these things. And the other side is, the enchanted world. It's up to folks, but if you ask those questions, you'll find.
What do you mean by the enchanted world?
Well, a world that's not dead. I mean, the materialist paradigm that we live in, most people live in this world,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it's a bad thing that you live in that when you're young and when you're in your 20s, maybe your 30s. No, that I want material things. That really the only thing that matters is a family and romantic love and
money.
Money, God help us with the money and all that stuff. And that's great. I mean, I think it's important. But there reaches a point where you got to say, okay, there's something else here. If you don't do that, and this is going back to Jung, this was fascinating. Jung did not want patients under 40. Because, before you're 40, you got to get out there and, you got to get out there and get dirty and have some fun and get in your fights and have your love affairs and try and make some money or lose it. I think that's important. But there comes a point where that stuff just it doesn't nourish you anymore. That's for me the zombie myth. This whole obsession with zombies is that we're trying to consume something that doesn't nourish us. You reach a point where you got to look for something else. Start asking those bigger questions, and then life does become enchanted because it becomes alive. The world is alive, and the universe is alive. And life can be just a fascinating thing, and you lose that fear of death.
So you no longer fear death, like seriously, at all?
No, not really. I mean, of course, there's a fear of the transition. The moment of death. No, I don't know. I mean, that's pretty terrifying, right? But what's beyond? Once I get to escape, oh man! If it's anything like that DMT trip, I'm really looking forward to it.
So you haven't done it anymore, or are you done? Are you done with it?
I'm done. What was that Alan Watts line? When you get the message, hang up the phone.
Yeah, right. Well, see, I kind of respect that too. Because I've got a friend that I know that's all he does, right? And I think he's made it a drug habit now, And I talked to him, and he asked me, he said, "Well, why are you even asking about this stuff? Why are you interested in it?" And I said, "Well, it's more of a spiritual thing for me. I'm on a vision quest, man. I want to figure something out." And he said, "Well, I've seen Egyptian stuff, and that's all he could say to me." And I was like, "Cool, that's it. I've seen Egyptian stuff." I'm like, "Wow." That was his trying to sell me on it, And
yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, does it become a habit? Can it become like a drug habit, like anything else after a while,
And I think, for example, I took the trip I need. I just want to put this in perspective. I will never forget. I was living in the north of Spain, and I had 3 days off, and I've always wanted to do DMT, and I was like, damn, I wonder if, boom, I put DMT into Google, and there it is. 2-hour trip away. I call them. Can I come this weekend? Yes, I went. I got the message. I hung up the phone. I'm done. I don't think it's something I need to do again.
Right.
And, and I think other drugs, for example, alcohol is something that I think really, honestly, is the anti-spiritual drug. It really can get you off the path really quickly. And I'm not saying you should drink, but going out and having a couple beers or whatever, that's fine. But that connection with alcohol can really pull you down. So yeah, I think people need to be careful with drugs. I mean, it's not something I'm not like we should all go out and.
Well, alcohol, like the body doesn't. Everybody wonders why the old school Freemasons would ask you if you drink and stuff. There was a reason for that. There was an actual esoteric and spiritual reason for it. And again, I don't think all Masons really understood it. That was one of their rules, but somebody implemented those rules, right? And, alcohol killed my mother when I was 12. And I managed a bar for about 4 years too. And once I got around it enough, I saw that it just, like, we think we're smart individuals, right? Most of us do. We think we're smart and intelligent and we can know anything we want. And we really don't know that for a fact because we've got nothing to bounce off of on that. But when people drink, they become dumb, like completely, like they go straight to the animal side. It seems like everything in their right brain leaves. or communication. I don't know how to explain it, but it does go into the zombie world. And then it's sad because their body gets really heavily addicted to the numbing of all the nerves and stuff. And so there's nothing more crazier than watching somebody go through alcohol detox, man. It's crazy.
And I think in a spiritual level, it really kills the spiritual side of people, and it replaces it with, what was it Jung called it? Spiritus for spiritum. It's sort of like a material replacement for it, but it kills it. I've noticed that if for whatever reason, I have a few drinks, it just throws me right off for a couple days. So I really try. I think that of trying to either reduce that or get away from that is an excellent idea.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a drink every now and then is probably not going to hurt you, but what I mean.
Yes. Like, for most people, it's not a problem. But if it's not something that's going to help you.
Looks like we got a phone call from, what is this, Nacogdoches? Is this Texas? Who are we speaking with?
It is Nacogdoches. That's the oldest city in Texas. This is Ramblin' Randy here. How you doing?
Nice to have you on the program, Randy. What's on your mind?
Well, it is beyond refreshing to me, being one of the originals of the '60s era, to hear y'all talking about these things.
Oh man,
it is absolutely like. It's like the first time I walked in a rec store in Denver. I just had a kind of a strange feeling like I'm getting right now, like I'm shifting right here in front of me. I mean, it's just absolutely bizarre. But, those things, a lot of people forgot what happened back then. I didn't. I didn't stop. And it all started coming together after I kind of took a hiatus from the world, so to speak, be it by choice or otherwise. And now I'm putting all this back together. Everyone talks about this, the experience you have when you take acid or DMT or anything that's mind altering. And I believe a lot of that, well, I don't believe, I know a lot of that is in the individual's energy that it gets, whichever substance that you will be taking. And I hear you speak of this, of a not a fear, but an anxious feeling about it. I get that all the time, every single little ride or anything. I'm a hypochondriac, but
yeah, me too.
We do this every single night. We go there. And then when, Eric Piven, I don't know if Eric's still around, he called it the in-between. And I can go there instantly. Now, the very first few times you do this, you're going to be shocked. I heard y'all talking, and it's like you're floating out there, and you don't have anything holding you to keep you from going somewhere where you don't know where somewhere is. You might can hear something, but when you talk about symbols and things like that we're giving energy to here in this dimension, here in the third dimension, that, trust me when I hear me, the value of those symbols is they have no value. You don't. There isn't any such thing as value. Everything just is, and if that deal where David's thinking up there on that little statue, if they hadn't tore it down for some crazy reason, the thinker deal,
right?
Well, if you've done that before, we do it all the time. Remember, have you ever had where your forehead kind of goes forward like that? Whoop, like you thought you was fixing to go to sleep. Well, let me share something with you.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, listen to me. It's Joe, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Joe, I've been wanting to get hold of is that just let it go next time. You're not going to hit the ground, and you're not going to go to sleep, but you're going to go somewhere quite interesting. Now, that's that place where you have no tether. That's the in-between. And when you get to where you can negotiate this, all this other stuff, like, man, I heard the other day they're smoking lily pad flowers, and they're supposed to be super good for good stuff. Lily pads. And you see them in all those Egyptian deals, those lily pads. I'm on it like white on rice right now. I mean, I'm down that rabbit hole. Yeah. And there's people on YouTube that describe the feeling they get from vaping lily pad leaves, for crying out loud. But anyway, back on point about being in the in-between. I'm so proud of everybody. I'm so proud of everybody for doing this.
Yeah.
I would be cautious, but whatever you decide to do, I'd go 1/4 of that.
Just a quarter.
Just a quarter, and you might want to back off just a tad because it sounds like you got a lot of energy in there, and you'll only see what you actually. I'm glad I thought of this. This whole shooting match is about acceptance. There is no question in my mind that we could go whoa, whoa, and grow another arm if we lost it. But we don't think we can yet, but we can. We can.
Well, I see what you're saying, because it's kind of like those studies where we have records, like in track or whatever, and they're unbreakable, right? Until somebody breaks the record, and they're no longer even a thing anymore. Now it's like a standard, and the humans evolve and they move past it. Now everybody can run that record. And they've done studies like that on mice and stuff, where once they figure out something, somehow or another, the rest of the mice in the world can do the same thing, and it's not a problem anymore.
You know, where energy goes, where attention goes, energy flows, and that's the seed of manifestation. Now we're talking all. You know, I hear everybody talking about, you know, going back in time and or how to manifest something right here. The thing about it is, we have to leave the quantum world. You know, I was just listening to someone talking, it might have been on this station or somewhere today. They said that, they're talking about the string theory. Oh, that's passé, that's old school. Well, so is Newtonian, and soon will be quantum. Just the new dangling deal is scalar, and scalar is where it's energy frequency driven. I'm in the scalar school of thought now, big time. It's the only thing that makes logical sense. In the beginning, there was the word. That word they're talking about is frequency. Now, where attention goes, again, energy flows. That's the seed of manifestation. So these things that we call particles are actually locked scalar wavelengths that have already been pre-programmed. Now, that's a whole 6 days of discussing that. But they're locked scalar wavelengths, and they're driven by intent, focused intent. And when you think about something, what they call particles appearing now are actually aggregated spots of those locked scalar wavelengths that you've drawn from the ambient into that focus point, and they start aggregating that spot until now we call those particles. But actually those are aggregated, focused intent thoughts, and those particular thoughts, as they gather together, is what's creating our future. Interesting concept, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And I don't think you're rambling at all. I think you're making perfect sense.
Oh. Did I mention it was rambling, Randy?
Yeah, you did. You did. Yeah, you did. Okay. That's why I said that.
Most everybody. No teleprompter needed here, Joe.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you know, the 60s era is something that I'm extremely jealous of, because like when we started this program, I was talking to Robert about, you know, Kennedy and what the movements that were happening, and everything seemed like we were getting somewhere, you know, and then like the shot rang out, and I don't think we've been right ever since.
Well, there's a lot of dynamics that you brought into that, but let's go back to maybe a couple generations before. I want to know what was going on when Tesla and that whole crew was shaking there. They had something happening, you know what I mean? And because they were drawing from the ambient. And I'll tell you something else about this ambient, is that when you think something, it is now in the ambient. It's open source. So if I'm seeking that in the ambient, if I'm truly focusing on I have a challenge and an idea or something, I'm seeking the ambient. If I am in the right frame of mind, I could snag that thought, you know, that person put in the ambient. And I think in some book it says, beware of your thoughts, you know, protect them closely. So, we blurt out a lot of things now. And if you believe in the theory of where attention goes, energy flows, that's the seat of manifestation. And you look at that on a macro basis. Edward Bernays, believe it or not, his uncle was Sigmund Freud. Can you imagine the lunch? I mean, the turkey dinner they'd have about it. Anyway, Bernays.
Yeah, they have some conversations, right?
Bernays is the cat that got those chicks smoking cigarettes on Broadway. Okay?
Yes.
He played the whole
Century
deal.
of the Self.
And,
did you see that with Adam Curtis where they talk about that? That was a great show.
Oh, amazing. And so by using that data that they're collecting and continue to collect, then, and I want to share something with you, Joe, and it might also, you might pass this on to your other fellow there that I like to listen to him. It comes on real late, that other guy, Ryan. I like Ryan too. Good content, but I forgot where it's at. Doesn't really matter.
Can I share a story with you guys? I just want to share a story with you. Something happened to me yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at work, and I got really upset with a coworker. So I went outside, and I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I said, I got a bad temper. And I said, when my friends talk to me, when they know I get that, it's like two cables crossing. And it's like, it just snaps. And so we go into a meeting, and the air conditioner had been broken. And the air conditioner guys come and they fix the air conditioner and we get the cool air. And I swear to God, 5 minutes later, the air conditioner blew up, but actually blew up. They had connected the cables wrong. They crossed the cables. And out of the ceiling, all of this smoke came. And I remember the girl looked at me and she goes, 5 minutes ago, you told me about crossing the cables. And there it goes, the air conditioner. I mean, it's kind of a stupid story, but you know what I mean? Like when you talk about thoughts and energy, especially with things like anger.
Yeah, we call that synchronicity, right? But I don't think we really know what it is. I think, you know what I mean?
We don't, but something weird. I mean, I actually made the symbol with my two fingers. I crossed my fingers, and I said it's like two cables crossing. And 10 minutes later, the cables got crossed, and the air conditioner blew up. But it was just one of those things where your thoughts go and your energy go, especially energy that's why you got to be careful, especially angry energy. Strange things can happen.
And that kind of like
anything
that verse that
charged
says,
with emotion.
Yeah,
if
that
you
verse.
charge with emotion.
I gotcha. Well, isn't it kind of like that verse that says what goes in, like I forget what he said, it was like a metaphor, what goes in and doesn't defile you, but it's what that comes out is what defiles you, right? Like what you bring out in the world, what you say, what you do, all that stuff. So you can see all kinds of things and experience all kinds of things, but until you push it out, that's when the cause and effect happens. Yeah.
When you proclaim it, yeah. This has gotten to be so interesting, life itself, really. And what makes it even more interesting is that people are fearing this death thing, dying, losing the wrapper.
Yeah.
Well, when you start, going in between, we'll call it, or when you get ripped or whatever you do to deviate to get to that point, that you're there then. When you go to sleep every night, you're there then. What people are worried about is that event. When I was in Cambodia one time, a long time ago, the story, and there's no question that if someone stepped next door, I was there. I mean, there's no doubt. But that was no different than going in between, just letting your head go like the Thinking David deal. I mean, there's no difference in those. The only thing that's different is that we fear this one event. We're ruining our whole life over this one event. And the event is going to be no different than when you crash tonight. I wish everybody could kind of get that in their head. I don't look for it to come quickly because I'm enjoying this experience. This is a learning thing.
Yeah, me
I believe
too.
at the end of the day, we're in God's school. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Greater things can you do than I have done. Well, you did quite a bit. With the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. And so, listening to all you guys, I just kind of come out of hippie retirement. By the way, hippie stands for highly intelligent person pursuing individual enlightenment.
Very nice. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you called. Hippies, a lot of people claim to be hippies, but when you're speaking to a true hippie. You're a true hippie, sir.
You definitely got that hippie vibe going.
Yeah.
Man. I feel it.
Well, not only do I have the hippie vibe going, but in my pocket, I made a coin in honor of my brother who was busted for a half a roach in Kilgore, Texas in 1968 and did 5 years in Huntsville, and he was a valedictorian of the school.
5 years in prison for a roach?
5 years for a roach.
Jesus.
For a roach behind the walls. And so I had a, vendetta against, that whole thing. And coming from Kilgore, that's the oil capital of the world. And so we were brought up in a real bizarre upbringing. And so the whole town didn't know. The rest of the world wasn't like that. But it was pretty bizarre in Kilgore. It was pretty bizarre. But anyway, so we were just a fertile ground for testing of anything that come along that could deviate these little people's brains. And we did quite a bit of testing. But this coin is called the Unspoken Heroes coin. It's got my brother and his girlfriend on the front, and underneath the elbow of it has my initials, PRM, and the zip code of Kilgore, Texas, where my oil field friends that didn't believe I made the coin would see that zip code, and that's validation. That's our home where I was born at, that zip code of Kilgore. So the back of it's got a Jacob's ladder going up into the sky. The top of the ladder is a sativa leaf, and it's got these, looks like sun rays coming off, but it's not sun rays. If you count those rays, there'll be a gap, and then you look over, and there's some more little ray-looking things, a gap, and you overlay that to the alphabet. That first batch of them will come to T. The next batch after that first little gap will be H, and then the next one will be 3, being THC, the active ingredient in cannabis. And then the upper left and right corners is the molecular symbol of Delta-9 molecule. Below that is change within the middle of it, 420. And I was pretty instrumental in the first 420 celebration, and that's when that coin was birthed. Is it there at the first 420 in Denver?
I can listen to
I just thought I'd call in.
I can listen to you. You need to call back in whenever you feel like it, man. I think I might give Ramblin' Randy his own private line to the show.
Hey, Joe, since you said that, I was out at Contact talking to some people, and here's what I'm doing. I have found a way by which we can monetize waking up in the morning, drooling on the couch, and do quite well at it. And at the same time, we can help save this, correct some of these mental wrongs that are going on in the world today. And I kid you not, what I want to do is be able to sponsor you and everybody else that brings value to the world. And we'll do that in a remote manner, and will be called the Silent Supporters Society. And I was going to call you anyway to let you know that now any site out there that's been demonetized, they done pissed off the wrong old fella that they told how to swim a long time ago. So I got some tricks too, and they trained me. So what we're going to do is this. I can remonetize any site that's been taken down by them.
How?
Well, that's what I'm going to show everybody. That's what I'm going to do.
You said by drooling on the couch. I'm interested. Yeah.
Okay, drooling on the couch, really, those people are actually thinking.
Right.
They're working very hard. Now, I did a lot of drooling back in the day,
Right.
a whole bunch of drooling. I ended up, for no real practical reason, owning a drilling company, doing pretty well. All of a sudden, someone said something about network marketing, got off into that world. What a crazy world that is. That's just like Vegas. Did extremely well in that. I didn't do any of that networking thing, but I was the owner. I financed the deal. Great. Learned how to turn the tables in that dynamic on the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is operating on a 1/10 force matrix with unlimited breakaways, but the problem is that every time you buy something, you're feeding into that system. You become the monthly renewal fee every time you buy something. No one realizes that.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've just reversed that system. I just reverse the system and flow it back to everybody, and I give it to the world. They can't get mad at me for giving it.
Yeah, that's right.
Do that.
That's right. Yeah, and I get what you're saying about the network marketing and stuff too, because I've seen that.
What a bizarre.
Well, you brought up Brian Gable too earlier, and you lost your train of thought. But I seen that get into our community. I seen these marketing companies get into some of these people and make evangelists out of them and raise the prices and get and we get all that stuff happening. And I'm like, how did it get into this community? Right?
Oh yeah. Well, it's one reason. Joe, was it Andy McGuire or whatever that movie was? Show me the cash. All that. Everybody's going to go for that. Amschmel Rothschild said this to his 5 sons: "Go out and find me something that we can give to the minions that they desperately want, that will help our agenda without them knowing it. We can win any battle, especially when we take it away." That's what's happening now. So what you do, those dynamics. That dynamic that you referenced, the exponential growth, MLM, whatever you want to call it, though that is the weapon. That is the weapon. But every one of them are illegal.
Yeah, first they get your name. Back in the day, they used to do it in your mailbox, but now they do it through your email, and now they do it through
I'm fixing to lay it on you. But I have been in front of federal judges on the wrong side of the table.
No, not you.
But talking to, oh yeah. Now listen, here's the thing. They always said this, called the Oregon sniff test. They'd say, Randy, the last person that just came in, they hadn't got a prayer in the world of ever making any money in this deal, do they? Well, no, they don't. They don't. They don't. They actually don't. However, Joe, if you ever came up with a way that they not only could break even, but prosper beyond their wildest expectation based on proof of work. Every single human being has value. When I was in New York the other day and I saw those people, and in L.A. the other day, Contact and Desert, went into L.A., and I saw those people, the plight of those people, that had value to me because I gained value from it. Thank God it's not me, that kind of value. If those people were able to be recognized, those people like me just in gaining that value to keep me from hopefully not ending up like that, if those people could just get a smidget of the value that I just received, if I could give them back a smidget, I'm talking about a smidget, that would help them. If you get 1 million people that gave those people a smidget, you just changed their life.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's like yeah, that's cool. That is cool.
Yeah, it's real cool.
You don't sound like the original oil man that I'm used to talking to. Does he, Robert? No, does he sound like like most oil men? You think that they're these super conservative guys that, they're super greedy. That's what the society tells us. But a hippie oil man's an entirely different thing, right?
Yeah, I think Ramblin' Randy's the first hippie oil man I've ever spoken with.
Yep, me too.
Well, they have a way of putting their hair up underneath their hat, but I'll guarantee you this, there was not one single hour in the oil field that everyone in it was not deviated on something 24/7, period,
right.
End of discussion. And when they brought in all these laws and everything, testing everybody, it went downhill. I mean, it went straight downhill. But, Joe, I want to wrap this up. I'm taking up a lot of time here. But here's the thing, is that my goal is this, is that everybody that says they want to make change, everybody that says they're going to make a donation to Joe or whoever, the station or whatever, it may not be their fault they've got procrastination. I've eliminated that. My little deal's going to be on an app. I'm giving it to the world free. Joe's in that app, okay? And I go out there and I tell everybody in the whole world, just join. I start promoting Joe and others like you, like John B. Wells. I like Jimmy Church. I like a lot, Ryan, people like that. And so they come in and there's a big audience for what we do is we analyze those people out there that are passing out good data. And then we highlight one of your shows, and it's going to be one of our highlighted shows. Then they show Joe a token of appreciation. Our culture will be, when you gain value in any form, be it a picture, an article, a YouTube, a billboard, someone crossing the street, and when you gain value in any form, you reciprocate with a small token of appreciation. So when I highlight Joe, which I will do because you got good content, truthful content, and there might be 1 million people listening, and they hit you with 1 penny, do the math, Joe.
I hear you. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
It is a fair exchange of value, new way of wealth redistribution, except this time I'm going to tell you something's going to blow your socks off. What you're receiving are pennies. and their gifts.
Right.
They're tax-free. They're tax-free.
Tax-free pennies are good to me.
Talk to y'all later.
Yeah, you take care, brother.
Talk to y'all later. Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Man, I've never kept, I want to apologize to you, Robert, and I've never kept anybody on the phone that long, but I don't think I've ever had a caller like that. Never.
Yeah, that guy, that's an interesting cat. I was wondering sometimes where he was going. I was a little bit nervous he's going to try and sell me something, but then, it was an interesting...
No, he makes a lot of sense. He does make a lot of sense. And, we only got a few minutes left. Like, this is our last break. And so... yeah, Robert, you stayed the whole time with me, man. Like, this has been fun. It ain't over yet, but we only got a few minutes left. And don't forget, too, I will say, even though he's talking about pennies and small tokens of appreciation, we do take support. Mainly, this show runs by support. You can support by going to lightingthevoid.com. There's a donate button there if you want to support. If you can't, and believe me, I understand when you can't. I've been there without a dollar many times. Just give us a shout on social media or tell folks about us. But we'll be right back. This is the shortest break, too, as well. I'm Joe Roop. We're here with Robert Bonomo. Stay with us.
This is Al. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing this journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Light in the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Introducing Shadow Light Tarot from Waking Canvas, The Fringe FM's new contributing artist, Eric Tisi. This hand-illustrated black and white self-published deck serves as a reinvention of the tarot, never before witnessed. Each of the several suits of this 88-card deck lineup form an infinite panoramic scene. Even the included visual companion guidebook is entirely hand-illustrated, cover to cover, with beautiful visuals and esoteric symbols and artwork. The newly released deck comes in a custom magnetic box with its own travel pouch. The Shadow Light Tarot Premium Deck and its travel-sized mini deck Wonderlight Tarot are both available now from WakingCanvas.com. If you use the code word FRINGE, that's F-R-I-N-G-E at checkout, you'll receive an extra 10% off your entire order. To discover more, including a free reading and time lapses of all the illustrated artwork, make your way over to WakingCanvas.com today. That's WakingCanvas.com.
Well, some nights on this show surprise me more than others, I can tell you. I do appreciate Ramblin' Randy calling, and you can call back in anytime, brother. But, yeah, I know you were kind of worried there for a minute that he was trying to sell you something towards the end, right? But, I think, Robert, what he was talking about is we are trying to find better ways to support each other, because the system has really done us over in a lot of ways. And these multi-level marketing and network marketing and funnel marketing stuff, it doesn't really reward the people the way it should. It rewards the people at the top. That's how all these things work. I'm not talking about a socialist type thing, but I think I get what he's saying, Robert, where like if somebody was to take a piece of your content and they said, you know what, I like that. And that's kind of what Facebook and Twitter and all these other people do with hearts and thumbs ups and stuff, but nobody really gets anything for it, right? Thanks for the smiley face. Nobody gets a damn thing for it. But what if they could? What if you did? And this gets kind of scary because it gets into the Black Mirror stuff, because then everybody's like, well, I got to make sure everybody likes me in order to make a living. Have you seen that show, Black Mirror?
Yeah,
you see what I mean? Like, I got to make sure
we had
that
open source Facebook where you could sell advertising, but also your content, those likes, for example, you could monetize. So the users owned Facebook.
Yeah,
the users owned it. You know what I mean?
But it does make me think about like what have we got wrong? Because I think a lot of people, and like I said, I'm a patriot. I think when they designed this government and this system and everything and how it works, they had the best of intentions. The Constitution had the best of intentions to make people free, but along the way it got screwed up, and instead of evolving, people aren't getting paid for what they should do. Like you were talking about during the break, for example, somebody that raises a kid and they do it well. Well, what if they got rewarded for that? Now, I know that sounds kind of nutty, but that's a pretty good idea. If we could figure out a way to do that, like somebody codes an app, like, and I'm just repeating what you told me during the break. You know, they get money for it. But if somebody raises a kid, teaches them a language, teaches them morals, teaches them manners, shows them how to protect themselves and live in the world, and puts that life into the world, they get nothing but maybe a little satisfaction. Well, why can't they get rewarded for that? What if we lived in a society
not only do they not get rewarded, they pay for it. They're taxed to death to pay for their education. They have to buy them the clothes. Why couldn't we create an account every time a child was born, pop $1 million into it, and then every year that, you got a certain amount of money. When the kid turns 20, you give the kid $100,000 and you close the account. Would that be so difficult?
It does. No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't
be very easy. It's the same. It's the same as a mortgage. You create the money and you destroy the money that's gone. There are so many ways, and like what Ramblin' Randy was saying about the tokens, we were talking. Imagine open source Facebook that we the users owned, so we could participate in the advertising revenue. And your show, we like your show, we give you a couple of likes, and you get some change. You see what I mean? This is not that difficult, but like you said, that would shake the system to its core, and a lot of people don't want that banking system that runs the material world to end because they're living high in the hog on it.
Well, the only thing that worries me, though, is I think people would start to worry about would they have to, because how most people are insecure. Honestly, they got some type of insecurity. And so now you're worried about getting your thumbs up just to make to enhance your living. I could see how it could be an alternate way, but if it was the main way, then you'd have everybody wanting to make sure that they got, that they got those things, right? Like they weren't really being themselves. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's like that show Black Mirror where that girl keeps, she has to get so many thumbs up to get discounts and all this other stuff. So she's pretending to be somebody she's not online to get approval ratings, right? I don't.
But Joe, this. Your show. If you tried to make your show something that people liked, you would have never been successful. You did what you love, what you're passionate about, and that's why your show's successful.
I actually started out doing that, though. I started trying to do what other people were doing and saying, well, this worked for them, I'm going to try that, and just I actually tried to find a formula to it all. And I mean, there is a formula when it comes to, like, I guess, formatting of a show, but yeah, I eventually started giving up on it. I'm like, I'm just going to stop holding back, say what's on my mind, not worry about who it makes upset or whatever, and just, do my thing. Right. And then things started working out a little better.
And I think anyone who's had success, I know myself, when I've tried to, in the beginning, you can't find your voice and you imitate, and then one day you realize, okay, this is what I need to do. You do it, and that's when you find success. So yeah, I don't think that would be a problem, because imagine the people putting pictures of their cats on this open source Facebook. People would be, okay, enough with your cat. Let's do something that's a little bit more interesting. And yeah, I think that monetary issue of what is money, how it's created, and who controls the creation of that money is crucial. It's crucial to waking up and to understanding. You want to see the Matrix, dive into that rabbit hole, understand it, and then you get a whole different perspective of what runs the world. And you realize it's not Rosicrucians or Masons or reptilians. No, it's banksters.
Here's another thing, too, that I thought about. Like, another thing that screws us up, if you want to talk about Freud and psychology and stuff, is a lot of the times we have kids when we're young, right? In our 20s and our 30s, we have kids, and we're still trying to figure out who we are. So we're struggling through life, and then we mess up our kids, and then it perpetuates, and they mess up their kids. Meanwhile, if you go to, like, any nursing home, you can go down the road from where I live and visit a nursing home that's not very cool. We're talking about elderly people that are wise beyond belief, that should be respected, that people don't even come to visit. They don't talk to them. They're done with them. In my experience, the elderly are very good at raising kids. I've seen it. I've seen them adopt kids, the difference how they are. And it got me thinking, it's like, what if when we had children that we had an elderly person, we assigned them to a child for their whole life until that elderly person was gone, kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi with Luke, so to speak. And that elderly person becomes valuable now. They're with them through their schooling. They're with them through everything. For some reason, they're just better with the children. That's not saying that the parents aren't there and that they don't love them and live with them, but that elderly person is there in all ways, right? And so now we don't just throw them in a nursing home and get rid of them. We have value. We have ways to take care of them because that creates value, and the kids become better people. They become better in society. Now, that's just my experience. I don't know about yours, but I've found that because my cousins, I've got family that was adopted by elderly because their parents weren't so good. I know a whole bunch of kids that have like elderly parents versus other kids that were, where parents were trying to raise them in their 20s and 30s and stuff. And not to say they're bad, but they're still trying to figure out who they are. And I think maybe in an evolved society, we could switch that up somehow and get them more involved with the upbringing of children.
I think that's a fantastic idea. It's a great, and I mean, the older I get, the more I see that the biggest influence on my life was probably my grandmother, who was born in 1898. So, I think that's a fabulous idea, and it's a way, in a sense, with the idea of social capital, where the work they do would have value, and we could compensate them for it.
Yeah, I think it would work, and I mean, I can't take credit for the idea because it's in like book 3 of Conversations with God, but I just kind of passed it up. But after I started seeing what was really going on, apparently that guy spoke to God, and God told him in a message that there are other civilizations on other planets that are more evolved. And in those evolved societies that they have the elderly, they assign an elderly person to a child like that. And it works.
Yeah.
And people get paid for their value. Yeah. Now, I know what people are thinking. You're talking about socialism and stuff. That's not Not talking about that at all. I'm talking about real freedom.
No, not at all.
Plus getting value for what you're paid for, right?
Absolutely. And when we talk about social capital, this has nothing to do with socialism. It simply defines it's how we define money and what is work and what isn't work. Because remember, all money is debt, and debt is just it's future work. It's work that will be done in the future. So if we can assign different types of work as being able to be monetized, then all we're doing is changing the definition of money. But it has nothing to do with people's private property, the size of government, nothing like that.
I think Ramblin' Randy's trying to call back in. No, is he?
Man.
Oh, I think he is. Oh, well, I missed it. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't even look at the phones because we only had a few minutes left. But I think he was trying to call back in because, I don't think he was trying to sell something at all. But you heard what he said, though. He went to Contact in the Desert, and he saw all of this stuff. He observed all of these things happening to people, right? And he looked at the value system of it all. Like, we need to get past this evangelistic stuff, I think. But that's
absolutely
something Suzanne Ross and I had to talk about today off air, and we talked about last night, where I feel like in that verse where it says we're children of God, that we have that some kind of weird complex where we feel like we need to be worshiped or something. And once we become an evangelist in any society, whether it's church or ufology, it really feeds the ego, and then we're gone, right? It doesn't matter how we started. Now we're giving into that. And
or magic.
Yeah, right. And
or astrology or tarot. It happens. I've seen it happen to people. It slowly creeps up on them, and all of a sudden they've turned into the guru, and then God helped them.
Yep. They became an evangelist, but they lost the original reasons why they were there in the first place, because there's something godlike about us, I think, that wants a lot of people not really worshiping us, but that's a good word for it. I mean, look, think about all the movies, Rocky and America's Got Talent and all that stuff, where everybody stands up and everybody's crying because that they reached their journey and they finally become the ultimate whatever they were trying to be, and now everybody worships them. Like, for some crazy reason, we want that. Why? No animals don't want that. Nothing in the universe wants that, but we do.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why it says in the Bible, "Don't worship any other gods but me." That's a pretty good point that I was thinking about when I talked to Dr. Hugh Ross and stuff. But I think Ramblin' Randy's back on the phone. Hey, man, we only got a few minutes here, but what's on your mind?
Okay, listen, I wasn't the one that had this show tonight, and y'all the one that had this topic, and so I believe in Greg Braden's The Seven Obscene Mirrors it's supposed to be, so I had to call back in. And everything's open source anyway, and this right here needs to be brought out. It is beyond it is a tool that will be used to correct problems out there. But let me tell you why this works, because y'all were talking, and without paying, without an exchange of value, we would not be here. There would not have been the first decision made in this matrix that we call life ever, whenever that started. And you know what they paid with?
Yeah. Compare their lives. And
they paid with attention. The very first thing was someone was convincing someone else, and there had to be a decision made. That was the free choice decision. But the most highest, most valuable commodity had to be exchanged, and that was their attention. And that goes back to where attention goes, energy flows. That's the very first exciter thought. I just want to throw that in there. We can talk about that another time.
Yeah, I think. Well, Robert was kind of worried because we were talking about other stuff. Robert's like, "Well, is he trying to sell us something there at the end?"
I'm gonna thumbnail it real quick. And this is anyway. Here's the thing: is that those descriptions of those dynamics that we described, and if you look at the way they do things, the very thing that can take them down, they prostitute it, they throw mud at it, and it's that exponential growth factor business model that they knew going in was going to fail. It fails in Amway, it fails with the Federal Reserve, it's failing now because it's based on the happiness and well-being of your base. So when your base starts getting disenchanted, let's take a look over there in Greece and what have you here in the U.S., when your base is disenchanted, then it starts crumbling from the bottom. You get what's called binary creep or pyramid creep, whatever you want to call it, corporate creep. It happens in where there's not a fair exchange of value. Everything's based on a fair exchange of value that's going to work and last forever. A mind changed against its will is a mind that stays unchanged still. The universe will have a gap in it. Until that gap is filled, it will be filled. There's going to be discord. And so every time there's an exchange of value, we teach a culture. If you just gain value, as small as it may be, listening to Joe, then you go to your app. I don't care if you saw it today. He made it 5 years ago. You contribute a small token of your appreciation. That's our culture. Now, what you have to do is you need numbers, big numbers. And so you actually show people how they can go out and be a tutor. Because what we're going to do is we're going to teach them life. And then they are going to be not only students, but here's the kicker. The very last person that comes in, this was beamed to me the other night, okay? This came through to me the other night. What's the key to this? The key is the very last person that comes in, they have innate value. If they can go catfishing and they know what kind of bait works, let us know. Post it on my to-be website called the Rabbit Hole Herald. They get that up there. We have enough numbers. There's going to be enough woodchucks or what have you, river people, that's going to love that person's catfish deal, and they're going to give them a small token of appreciation. Or they can post something on the Rabbit Hole Herald for free. We'll see it. If we gain value, all the members know our culture. We will reciprocate with a small token of appreciation.
Well, can it be anything like what Robert was talking about? Like, what if we notice how somebody raised a child and we want to know how they did that?
Throw them something, for God's sake. I ran this past Joel Osteen. You know, his daddy was a big preacher down here in Houston. Joel's got a big church down here too. It's global, by the way. And I said, hey, what if you had a preacher come through, a missionary come through, and everybody's on my new little deal I'm fixed to bring out called Silent Supporters, and they're all out there in the audience, and they all have $1 on their account, or what have you. See, they bring it into the deal when I get it set up. And then they'll convert their worthless paper fiat into these little chits, we call them tokes appreciation. And then every penny they put in there, they give away. I don't tell them who to give away to. Feds can't bust me, can't get mad at me for that. They give it away themselves. So they're sitting in church with Joel. Missionary comes through. The whole congregation is already, Joel's told them to jump, and they ask how high, and they all join,
Right.
They all join the Silent Supporters, and when that missionary comes up there, they know to get out there, they know the culture, the Silent Supporters, and they all hit him with a nickel.
Yeah, I got
Joel's
you.
He's got about 10 million people
So
out there.
So we understand it a little bit better, right? Robert, do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, it's a fabulous idea. And it's really what we were talking about before, that we are the ones that decide what money is and where our attention, because where our attention goes, where our money goes. And we decide what money is, not the Federal Reserve. Exactly.
Let me share something with you about this money thing. Okay.
All right, we got like 2 minutes here, man. Sorry,
okay,
I ain't
I'll
trying
be
to
real
rude.
quick. I know. Money, I didn't mean to call in. I really didn't. But anyway, money is a storehouse of your value, your innate value. Whether you push a broom and you get so much of their stored value, call it worthless paper fiat money, they give you those little things because they're supposed to store value equal to ever how many hours they got you for, the working deal. So you take their storehouse of value dollars and now you use that. But actually what you've done is you've made a negotiation based on your energy and your innate value for these dollars. You don't have to do it for these dollars anymore.
And
when these people
the
come
evolved
over,
planet begins. Evolution, an evolved society actually begins to happen for once, maybe.
and here's the deal, real quickly, is that when they come in, they're only going to be limited to be able to deposit so much per month so that I don't get the hit for being some sort of exchange deal. It's going to be for gifting only, for showing tokens of appreciation only. 30 in, but, if or $5 in or $1 in, they can put whatever they want in there, but I'm going to limit them to $30 in there, but they can get back millions.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
And I'll never hold a penny. Never hold a penny. Never hold a penny.
Well,
never
listen,
hold a penny.
I got to get off here, but, feel free to contact me, at contact@lightingthevoid.com.
I'll holler at you. Nice talking to you too, sir. So, if we can help you on donations, holler at us.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. Thank y'all. Bye.
Right on, brother.
There you are.
Yeah, see, that would work, but I'm afraid Ramblin' Randy would end up missing, Robert, once it really started working.
I was kind of thinking
but the cool thing is he's from the South, so I bet you
so you can find him.
Yeah, and I guarantee you he's got some survival skills and knows some stuff. But if he really gets that thing going, right, which is, if you think about what he's talking about, that would, an evolved society would live that way. That's how we would do each other. It's not really socialism at all. It's not. But
It's not because we're not at all. It's just how we define the damn dollar bill.
Yeah, and where energy goes, where focus goes, energy flows, right? So it's what we should be going towards, and it has everything to do with what we're talking about. I know it doesn't sound super paranormal and occult, but indeed it is in a lot of ways. But I tell you what, Robert, this has been an adventure tonight. This has been a great conversation.
I had a great time, man. It was really good talking to you again.
Yeah, and what do you got going on? We got a minute here, and tell everybody how to find you and what you're doing and what you got going on.
Yeah, I'm starting to work on a new film, so I'm hopefully by 2020 sometime I'll come out with another film. And if they want to check me out, they can check out the 21 Faces of God on YouTube. They can check out the Cactus Land, and if anyone wants a tarot reading, it's tarotjourneys.org, and you can check that out there too.
Yeah, the 21 Faces of God is something I think everybody, and I said this last time you were on the show, I think everybody needs to check out. Make sure that you got time. Of course, you can go back to it. The way I binged on it when I did it, right? Cool. It's a binge-worthy thing to watch. I love that stuff, man. Binge-worthy YouTube. I ain't shy from it. I love YouTube. I just hate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show again, brother, man. It's been a blast. We'll do it again. Maybe we'll wait another 10, 12 months or whatever. We'll have you back on because it's always cool talking to you. I like these kind of shows.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Joe. Have a good night. Take care.
You too, sir. All right, that was Robert Bonomo. Go check out the website, thecactusland.com. We got to get out of here. Now, tomorrow night, we are going to be talking about the Bermuda Triangle and all the strangeness and high strangeness that happens there. And if you're listening live, there's still more programming coming up. The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. Don't copy the show without written permission or hit me up if you want to. Also, and then another thing is the music was by Chronox Bundy, Kevin MacLeod, and Space Station. Go check out their music. We'll be back tomorrow night with more Lighting the Void. Have a good one. Good night.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.
Yahoy there! This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stuff.
I'm not